What's up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new story. Today we have a story of a spoiled kid who is basically just chirping kids in class the entire time. He spends the entire time chirping kids for being poor. However, thankfully, there is karma in this situation. As always, or not as always, but in good stories, the spoiled kid gets the karma he deserves. When the girl he likes overhears him saying this stuff, and let's just say it gets pretty crazy. So sit back, relax, leave a like in the video to claim your free nothing, and let's just jump right into it. So we're going to call the subscriber who submitted this story Brendan. So anyways, in Brendan's class, it is his first period history class. There's this kid who we're going to call the spoiled kid. And the spoiled kid had parents with a lot of disposable income. And that doesn't necessarily make you a spoiled kid at all, really. I mean, you might be like spoiled with like good stuff or whatever, but if you are genuinely a good person and you understand that your circumstances are not a product of your, I don't know, your ingenuity or your, your hard work, and then let it all go to your head, as long as you're a good, decent person who understands that, you just won the RNG luck lottery, then we're cool. We're genuinely cool if you're a good person. However, if you're like the spoiled kid in this story, then you and I, we got some problems, bro. We got a few problems. And so, yeah, this all started on what seemed like a normal day, as these stories always tend to start, when Brendan was in history class. This was the first day of history class in 8th grade. So he gets in there, sits towards the back of the room, as this was just Brendan's preference for where he would sit, right? He kind of liked the back of the room. Look, I pay attention in class, mostly, and I just also happen to like the back of the room. I kind of like the bird's eye perspective, being able to see everyone. It just makes sense to me. But anyways, Brendan was sitting there, and then this kid came into class. He was wearing the Supreme Box t-shirt, which if you don't know, goes for like $500 to $1,000 or something. He's wearing Gucci shoes, like the most blatant Gucci shoes, not like ones that are like, oh, those look nice, and then you see a little Gucci label, you're like, okay. It's the ones that just have the big Gucci logo on them. Bro, I don't know about you, but personally, I've never understood the big logos. I always feel like a little logo, maybe, or just like have it be good quality if you're going to drop some money on it. Just have it look nice, bro. You don't need a big logo, bro. And he came in, and he sits down. He's like, what's up, guys? And kind of looks around, like my intros to my YouTube videos. No, I'm just kidding. But he's like, what's up, everyone? Like, my name's Spoiled Kid. Brendan looks over. He's like, what's good? My name's Brendan. Some other kids are saying hello. And, like, Brendan goes over to shake his hand or, like, dap him up or whatever they're going to do. And the spoiled kid's like, no, thank you. I don't know where those hands have been. And Brendan's just like, dude, what? Like, I'm not, like, a filthy person. He's like, I don't know. Those shoes say otherwise. And he looks down and look, Brendan's not wearing the nicest, cleanest, fresh out of the box, fresh off the shelf type shoes. But at the same time, bro, they're just a standard pair of shoes. I don't know why he's hating so hard. Why are you hating on my guy like that? But anyways, Brendan is like, okay, this kid's a little weird or whatever. And things would only get worse. So about a weekend, this kid can't, they all go into, first period history class again. And this spoiled kid sits down, and he just, he looks at Brendan. He's like, yo, dude. And Brendan's like, what's up? He's like, bro, you're such an NPC.
Are you supposed to have blood come out of your asshole?
Yeah, actually, that's pretty common, man. I wouldn't worry about it. I think my friend has a problem. Anyways, where were we last? Yes. I'm going to have to edit that, bro. Anyways, so he sits down, and the spoiled kid looks at Brendan. He's like, dude, you're such an NPC. And, Brendan's like, bro, what are you saying? He's like, yeah, you're such an NPC, bro. Because, I looked up your house on Google. It was only, $50,000. And at this point, Brendan's like, dude, what? It's a solid house. I got a bed. I got a couch with a TV. Sure, it's not 10 floors, stories tall, bro. But at the end of the day, does it really matter? And, Brendan was just kind of looking at him. And the spoiled kid was like, bro, you're such an NPC for being poor right now. You're such an NPC. And everyone's like, dude, what does that even mean? What are you even trying to say? He's like, bro, you guys wouldn't understand it too, because by the looks of your shoes, you're literally an NPC right now, bro. I don't know what to say. At this point, Brendan's like, looks like someone found the NPC meme. How unfortunate. So anyways, the next day comes in, or like a little while later, because if you don't know, this story is very recent. You know, very recently, there's been a lot of hate on my boy Ohio. My boy is the state Ohio. I've never been. It probably sucks. I'm not gonna lie. But look, it's not the worst. And I don't know if you've ever been in any TikTok comment section or just any comment section. Whenever something is terrible, right? Whenever something is terrible, it's like most normal X in Ohio. So the spoiled kid must have found out about the Ohio meme. Because Brendan comes in a little while later. And this is like a couple weeks ago. This story is actually pretty recent. And he sits down, and the spoiled kid's like, bro, is that a stain on your shirt? And Brendan looks down, and he's like, oh, crap, I forgot I didn't wash this load or whatever. He's like, yeah. He's like, bro, typical most rich person in Ohio, guys. Am I right? He like turns around and like looks at people. He's like, guys, do you get the joke? I'm saying he's the most rich person in Ohio because he's super poor. And they're all just looking at him like, bro, I'm gonna need you to shut up real quick, bro. Like, please. Like, come on now, please. Like, just, you don't need to go down like this, man. Because, like, this guy's reputation has been crumbling over the last month. Because they started class in September. It's now October. And this kid has been making, for the entire month, offhand comments about how poor everyone else is and how they're an NPC, or, oh my God, bro, look at those shoes. You're such a bot. Lol. Or just, like, I've spent like 7 minutes trying to explain how annoying the spoiled kid has been. This isn't even the meat of the story. I just think it's necessary for me to spend all this time to explain to you guys why this kid is so annoying and why he deserves what he's about to get, right? So anyways, spoiled kid's like, yeah, Brendan over here is the richest person in Ohio, meaning he's not rich at all. And everyone is just, at this point, everyone is super fed up with this kid. They're all kind of giving him sideways looks of like, bro, first of all, jokes about someone else's like socioeconomic status, especially in situations where they have literally no control, and also you have no control over yours as well. It just doesn't seem like, look, I'm not saying jokes on, I'm not being the joke police here, but jokes are better when they're on something someone can control than something they can't control. There are situations where jokes on something that people can control aren't good. There are just sometimes jokes where things people can't control can be funny. I'm just saying, generally, I'm seeing the jokes about things that people can control are a little bit better, a little bit tamer, a little bit more broadly acceptable, right? Second of all, he's been making the same joke for the last month. Sure, at first he says, oh, Brendan is such a bot. Brendan is such an NPC because his shoes are like lame or whatever. But look, and now he's saying, oh, Brendan, you must be the richest person in Ohio. Look, the joke every single time, every single day, this kid is making the same joke about how Brendan is so poor because he's a bot NPC and from Ohio. Like, bro, at a certain point, it just isn't funny anymore. Like, it wasn't funny in the first place, don't get me wrong. It wasn't funny in the first place, but at a certain point, it just isn't funny at all. Especially, like, even if it was a really clever joke, I don't know if you guys, okay, some jokes, it's funny because it's so unfunny how much you say them, and that's the punchline. But I'm sure you guys know that person. Maybe that kid in your class who just makes the same joke again and again, because the first time, it was kind of clever. You heard it and you're like, oh, he probably definitely ripped that from someone else. Like, that kid's an idiot. No way he actually could have come up with that. But funny joke, nevertheless. Like, okay, cool. And then he says it every single day. Even when people don't respond anymore. People just pretend like they don't hear this kid. I don't know if you have this kid. I definitely know a few like this. People just start pretending like they didn't even hear him say anything because it's just so annoying. You're just like, bro, it wasn't that funny the first time. It's not that funny the second time. And let me just say, it's not funnier the 300th time you said that joke. Right? So this is what the spoiled kid was doing. So after class that day, after he made the Ohio joke, I was about to call him Wallace. That was the subscriber in the last story. Brendan and a bunch of other kids in his class, right? they come together. Or like one kid comes over to Brendan and be like, hey, we're talking about the spoiled kid, like you want to come with us. And it's basically all the kids who kind of sit in the middle / back of the class. And they're all coming together because they just find this kid so absolutely annoying that they had to have they had to come together to basically find a way to humble him, right? I've actually had an experience like that. Someone in a class a long time ago was acting so poorly that the entire grade got together. I tried to be as neutral as possible because I was a little bit... No, I was kidding. They all came together to try and overthrow this person because they suck so bad, apparently. I'm not even kidding. This happened to me. Maybe I'll tell the story someday, but... Anyways, right? They all come together after class. They're just like, bro, this kid needs to be humbled. First of all, jokes aren't funny the 100th time, but also the jokes are just calling us poor. Because the thing is, they weren't just calling Brendan poor. He was calling all of them poor. And they're just like, dude, first of all, we're fairly middle class. Like, we have a house. We're able to have, like, we have more than one pair of shoes. Like, a lot of kids are barely rocking one, you know? I got two. That's pretty nice. I'm happy with that. Like, I'm very lucky for that. We're not even, like, that poor. And even if we were, that would actually make it worse, right? The fact that he thinks that makes it worse. And, at this point, they were just like, all right, we got to humble this kid. So Brendan is like, okay, do we know anything about this kid, right? And they're like, okay, we know his parents do pretty well, but I'll actually ask around. So one other kid in that group of kids who kind of came together to try and overthrow Brendan or whatever, we're going to call him Ben. Anyway, so Ben went around and he was kind of just talking to people, be like, hey, do you know anything about whatever, right? And one of Ben's friends, who's a girl, says, oh, actually, I do. The spoiled kid has been trying to get with my friend for the longest time. She has no interest, but she hasn't had the heart to say anything, right? And so basically the spoiled kid has been flirting, and by flirting, I mean legitimately being like, hey, let's come up with a name for her. Dude, I'm just gonna call her Audrey. I use the name either Kate or Audrey. I just think of people from my kindergarten class. Hey, Audrey, I just want to know if you wanted to take a ride on my whip this Friday. She'd be like, no, I'm busy. She's like, she doesn't have the heart to say, no, I'm not doing that, bro. She's always like, no, I got something to do. I'm sorry. Instead of being like, no, I hate you. Because she feels bad. So with this information, Brendan is like, thank you. Do you know anything about the spoiled kid? And, the girl that Ben was talking to was like, well, I mean, I'm not really a fan. From what I've heard, he kind of sucks. And Ben explains to her that he's been tormenting the class that he's in, first period history with Brendan, for the last month, and they need to find a way to humble him. And so, the girl's like, okay, I can think of some stuff. It's going to be a little bit mean, but I definitely have an idea. So she tells Ben the plan, and Ben's like, wow, that's tough. But also, maybe we're just teaching him a life lesson at this point. So anyways, Ben goes back to the group, and Brendan, or they kind of meet up at some point, maybe text message, maybe IRL, doesn't really matter. And Ben explains exactly what they're going to do. So it's going to go something along the lines of this. They're going to use the girl Audrey, right, who the spoiled kid has a crush on. And to get her, right, they're going to basically get her to blow this kid's heart up. I know it sounds bad, but please remember that he's been calling them bots, NPCs, and residents of Ohio because they've been poor, relative to his, like, $3 trillion a month allowance because he woke up every day, every single day in class for the last month. So they just need to ego check him a little bit, right? So the plan is they're going to get Audrey to basically firmly say no. And they're not only going to get her to firmly say no, they're going to get her to explain exactly why she says no. And they're not only going to get her to firmly explain why she exactly says no, they're also going to get her to say it in front of everyone, basically. Because they're going to somehow convince the spoiled kid, right? This is kind of devious, right? This is a little mean. They're going to convince the spoiled kid that he should ask Audrey out at lunch because they all ate lunch in a cafeteria. So he's going to make a big scene about it, and she's going to say it loud enough that people will hear and word will spread. I know this is devious. Comment down below if you think this is justified or not, because I don't know if it is, but also, like, I don't know. I'm trying to be impartial here. This is a little extreme, but this kid hasn't been good either. So anyways, next day in class is when the plan is slowly set into motion. So the spoiled kid sits down. He's like, yo, Brendan, you're so from Ohio right now because, like, you probably don't have a lot of disposable income. I don't know if it was that stupid, but it was, like, something really lame. And Brendan's like, haha, okay. Hey, man, I heard you got a thing for Audrey. He's like, how did you know? Do you love her? Is she dating you? I will fight you to the death to date her. And Brendan's just like, yo, dude, chill for a second. I'm here to help you. Biggest lie of the century, but whatever, right? He's like, dude, I got some insider information. I got the insider scoop that she has the hots for you, dude. And he's like, oh my God, I totally knew it. I knew that telling her about my whip every single day for a month would totally get her to love me. And in Brendan's head, he's like, wait, you asked her every single day for the last month if she wanted to go on a car ride with you? Do you think maybe the fact that every single day she had a different excuse may or may not have indicated that maybe, just maybe, this is crazy, maybe this is a hypothetical, man, don't take my word for it, but maybe she's not interested. I know, crazy of me to say something. Like, I should really check myself because that is definitely not the case. She is absolutely and unequivocally in love with you at the greatest proportion. Like, there's no question about it. I know I'm an absolute, I'm the crazy person here. I'm insane, right? I'm sorry for even questioning his authority on this. But yeah, Brendan's like, man, I should totally ask her out. Spoiled kid says that. And Brandon's like, oh, actually, I have the perfect time. So I was actually talking with her friend, and she said that Audrey would really like to be asked out today. He's like, oh my God, should I do it after class? He said, no, wait till lunch. Wait till lunch. She doesn't want you to ask before lunch. He's like, why that specific? And he's like, dude, just trust me this one. Remember, very devious. Leave in the comments down below if you think this is right or wrong, because I don't know. Be the moral police down there. Anyways, and he's like, no. Gotta do it at lunch, and it's gotta be a big gesture. If you just go over to her and be like, hey, I really like talking to you. Do you want to make this a little more serious? She's going to hate that. She's going to say no, and she's going to start kissing a bunch of ladies instead of guys at this point. You're going to scare her off from guys forever. What you really want to do is you need to make a really big scene. You need to flex all your money and flex all the things that you could give to her and make sure everybody in the cafeteria is paying attention. Brendan almost, this is, which is like, it's hilarious because Brendan is giving him the opposite of the good advice, right? In reality, look, okay, you're taking an expert from someone who's not an expert. You're taking advice from someone who's not an expert. I literally clowned people in the last video I posted like 3 hours ago. Like, oh yeah, people with no play are always giving the most advice. So take this with a grain of salt. But in my observations, not necessarily my vast experience in the subject matter, you're probably going to want to do option one of just very discreetly but confidently and saying it forcefully, right? That like you've enjoyed spending time together and you want to take it to the next level. And maybe I'm wrong here. I mean, I'm not the expert, clearly. Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe you don't want to make a massive scene and flex all your parents' money to get her to fall in love with you and date you. Maybe. Look, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I could be very wrong. I'm not the expert here, right? So anyways, the spoiled kid agrees 100%. He's like, dude, oh my God, you are so right. I know exactly what I'm going to do. So Brendan's like, cool. They sit down, class continues, and his friend leans over to him and is like, dude, you're such a jerk. And he says it laughingly because he's in on it as well. And Brendan's like, he's got it coming. If anything, I'm just doing him a favor. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment spoiled down below. It's a lot of people are going to guess the secret word, but I've been doing them a little bit farther into the videos just because one of these days for a Spoil Kid video, I'm going to say comment hat down below, and I'm going to catch all you people that are commenting spoiled without watching all the way. But in the meantime, collect your free hearts by commenting that down below. Just so you're aware, these videos are on Spotify, the shorts are on TikTok. Submit your own stories, because this is a subscriber submitted story, to my Instagram or Twitter DMs. You need to be following me. Those are in the description. And finally, the best thing you can do to support the channel and help grow the community by pushing these videos out farther in the algorithm is finish watching this video all the way to the end. And then when you're done with it, the best thing you can do is watch another one of my story videos, which you can look on the sidebar or YouTube recommended. But a really easy way is my Storytime playlist, which is in the pinned comment down below. Enough promos or whatever. I mean, leave a like for your free nothing, of course, but let's just jump right back into it. So anyways, it's officially lunchtime. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. So Brendan is sitting down with his friends, and they made sure that they were going to sit down near Audrey, and they briefed Audrey on everything. They told, because look, Audrey is a good-hearted girl, so they needed to explain to her in great detail why what she is doing is morally the right thing. They needed to explain to her, right? They basically had to explain to Audrey that, you know, exactly what this kid was doing, that this kid's ego was really puffed up by something that really wasn't going to help him in the future, aka bragging about how much his parents make, because that will not help you at all, especially further on you get in life. It's not just a detriment to him socially now, it will be later on. And the fact that she will strike him down for flexing too hard will actually give him such an important life lesson that he will probably thank all of them later on and take them all out to a fancy dinner. Sure, was Brendan kind of sugarcoating the situation? Was he kind of manipulating it a little bit to be like, you would be morally doing the wrong thing if you didn't do this? Yeah, maybe Audrey was not the girl who thought about things the hardest, and she kind of just went along with anything that sounded correct. Sure, these are all possibilities, but what matters are the facts, and the facts are that she knew exactly the script to say, and she was going to follow it to a T. So sure enough, Brendan, Wallace is the last guy's name, Brendan and his friends, they sit down close to where Audrey's sitting, and they watch as the spoiled kid enters the room. He enters the room in a very interesting manner, because the spoiled kid brings in a sound speaker system. So you already know that it's about to go down, bro. You already know this is about to be pretty freaking crazy, dude. So yeah, sure enough, he's walking up and he has like a wheelbarrow. Bro's dragging a wheelbarrow into the lunchroom right now. And on top of the wheelbarrow, or in the wheelbarrow, I should say, or the wagon, I guess it's more of a wagon than a wheelbarrow, let's be correct here. He has the sound speaker, so a big old speaker, whatever. And attached to it is a microphone. So you already know where this is going, bro. You already know that it's going downhill. So yeah, he walks over to her, and he stops in front of her. And Audrey looks a little freaked out because she was expecting that he was about to go crazy, but they were not expecting, or she was not expecting, or I guess Brendan and his friends were not expecting this either, for him to go this psycho insane, what is even going on right now moment. So he speaks into the microphone, "Attention everyone!" The entire room goes silent. Because dude, if anyone screams "attention everyone" into a microphone that's attached to a loudspeaker that they're wheeling in with a wagon in the middle of lunch, bro, I'm paying attention. I don't know about you, but I'm shifting my head over, needing to know if I'm about to hear some crazy stuff, which normally will follow in a situation like this. But he's like, "I just wanted to list off all the reasons why Audrey should go on a date with me." And he was about to just completely shoot himself in the foot. Because he's like, "Reason number 1, I have access to really cool cars. And Audrey, I would be able to take you on the coolest rides ever, and I guarantee this. Reason number 2, I will be able to bring you to really nice restaurants. I will actually be able to bring you to restaurants that all these other guys, the ones without the money like I have, would not be able to bring you to.
Reason number 3. If we were to get married, I would never have to do anything and you would never have to do anything because I live off of a massive trust fund that you would live off of too. Of course, we're signing a prenup. I mean, you can't be serious right now, guys. Reason number 4.
And in the middle of reason number 4, Audrey gets up and takes the microphone out of his hand. And he says, oh, perfect. You're going to say yes early. I didn't even get through the rest of my 15 reasons. And when Brendan hears this, he's like, bro really wrote down 15 reasons about why his dad was rich, bro. Like, that's crazy. Probably reason number 13 was that he'd add him on his American Express Platinum plan or something, bro. Like, I'm sure it's something like that. But anyways, right, she takes the microphone. And, Brendan was looking at her. And you could tell that Brendan was expecting to get a positive, an affirmative, to get a yes, Brendan. Oh my God, I'm so in love with you. I could go down on one knee or both knees right now. Oh, Brendan, I love the part. My favorite part was when you said your dad had a lot of money. So I was like, yeah, dude. Yeah. So that was not what she said. Believe it or not, that was not the quote that, came out of her mouth. I know you're probably surprised by that. But Audrey, in fact, said, Brendan, I'm going to have to say no. And there was a gasp that went around the room. Not that people were shocked by this. No, because, they probably would have gasped even harder if she said yes. But just the fact that she said that into the speakerphone, she was kind of told by Brendan that she had to say no really loudly and list her reasons really loudly. But, the spoiled kid kind of came in clutch and saved the day for not him, for everyone else but him, by bringing in a speaker system type thing so that Audrey could just speak normally and have everyone hear. And Audrey very intentionally said the following into the speaker system so that everyone could hear it. She's like, Brendan, the only qualities you put forward are about the money that your parents made and that you have access to. Those are not qualities that people want in boyfriends. Those are not qualities that people want in friends. Those are not qualities that people want or want alone in acquaintances or classmates. And she goes on a list like that. And she's like, Brendan, you have not displayed to me an ounce of originality, personality, anything that has to do with you. Everything that you've shown off to me as a reason why I should date you is a byproduct of your parents' work and not your own. It seems to me that your personality is completely inflated. It seems to me that your ego is inflated by the work that was done by your parents that you reap the rewards of. For that reason, I will not go on a date with you until you become a better you. She was really trying to make this a positive spin, but bro, this turned out to be a crazy burn. She could have definitely gone harder, but that was low-key a good message. But imagine this kid's reaction, or just the embarrassment when the girl that you ask out in it, because the thing is, I think the spoiled kid went really hard because, and remember, let me know in the comments if this is morally good or not, when Brendan was like, dude, she's into you, and she's only going to be into you if you go super hard, right? If you really go all out. He probably wouldn't have even gone all out like that if, one, he didn't, well, first of all, he probably wouldn't have even fully asked her out instead of just asking her on a car ride if he didn't know that she was into him, quote unquote, right? It's not really. But also, he definitely would not have brought it, or maybe he would have, but it's unlikely that he would have had a loudspeaker and done such a crazy show of whatever if he wasn't told that, yeah, Audrey's only going to say yes if you show a really insane, if you go really crazy basically and just shout out all the reasons why she should love you. That's the only reason why. So immediately after, right, she hands the microphone back to Brendan. And Brendan is just standing there because bro was lined up for a victory. Bro was lined up for a softball, a swing that just connects. Oh, it's perfect. It's beautiful. But no, he got played. He got owned. And immediately, he turns to Brendan, the guy who said she's going to say yes. And she's only going to say yes if you make a big scene out of it and tell her all the things that you can give her, aka all the money you have. That's the only reason why she's gonna say yes. And the spoiled kid makes eye contact with Brendan, and low-key Brendan feels a little bad because you can tell by his eye contact this kid is basically looking at him like, why would you betray me, bro? I thought we were boys. I thought we had something. Come on, man. I thought we had something. And, but no. But Brendan, after feeling bad for a millisecond, remembers the
dude is the richest person in Ohio, aka he's poor, lol.
for the last month. He's like, okay, well, I'm actually doing something good for the big picture. So the spoiled kid, defeatedly and slowly, I don't know why he wouldn't skirt out of there, bro. If I was in that position, which I hope I never will be, like, what? But imagine I was in that position. I would be skirting out there as quickly as possible. But the spoiled kid was practically dragging this thing behind him as he slowly walked out, defeated, head down, Jungle by Egg Boogie playing in his ear pods. I don't even know, bro. Walking out mad slow, walk of shame, bro. If I was in his position, I would be sprinting out of there. I'd be already trying to figure out how to transfer middle schools, bro, because that's it for me. Rip, GG, we're done. So yeah, actually from that point on, or it's been like 2 weeks since this happened because this is a really recent story. But the spoiled kid, first of all, he doesn't talk to Brendan or the other guys in his class anymore, probably because he feels betrayed. But also, he's not gunning them. He's not saying, oh, richest person in Ohio right here. Dude, you're a bot for being poor, lol. None of that's happening anymore. So honestly, only time will tell if this actually impacted him in a positive way, or if this is going to turn him into even more of a monster than he was before. So I guess we'll find out. Moral of the story is just be a good person, I guess. And let me know in the comment section down below if you think what Brendan did was morally correct or a little bit suspect. And also, if you want to support the channel,
click on the video on screen right now.
I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it. Do it. Today we get a story of these emo kids who think that they're super hard, super cool, super tough, and then they get completely owned, and it's hilarious. You'll enjoy it. Subscribe if you like stories, drop a like, and let's call the subscriber who sent in today's story, let's call him Gavin. So this whole story, this like 2-week long epic saga basically, all started one day when Gavin was in the hallways of his school and he was just going to his locker because he needed to go grab his backpack because it was time for the first class of the day. So Gavin is walking to his locker, and to be fair, right, he does say that he's not really paying attention, you know, he's kind of just thinking about other things, and he bumps into this kid by accident. And this kid is dressed in like all black, has like super long black dyed hair, has like black mascara, has some like band t-shirt that they definitely don't know more than one song, and the one song is the most played song. You know how it is. It basically, like, he bumps into this random emo kid, and by the way, if this is your style, I don't really care. Like, you're totally chill in my book. As long as you don't do what these emo kids do in this video or this story, then you're totally cool in my book. But anyways, right, the emo kid who he bumped into is like, bro, you gotta be watching where you're going. And Gavin's like, all right, my fault. Like, yeah, I wasn't really paying attention. That's on me. And the emo kid says, that's not enough of an apology. I need you to bow down. And Gavin's like, dude, I'm not bowing down to you. Are you crazy? And the emo kid's like, did you just call me crazy? Did you? And Gavin's like, well, yeah, like, I'm so sorry for bumping into you. Like, sure, this is kind of on me, but I'm not going to bow down to you to try and get your apology. And he's like, you don't know what you just did. And he like does a Sonic dash away. Like, you know how like the Sonic dash where you like throw both your arms back and like zoom away? And, you know, Gavin honestly didn't think anything of it. He was like, all right, like, I've never seen this kid before, but I definitely, will probably try not to talk to him ever again because he's pretty weird. But yeah, Gavin didn't think anything of it, but let me just say that quite a bit happened after that point. So fast forward a couple days, and Gavin and his friend, or his friends after school, they went to this kind of like local ice cream place where they would go like maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. They sat down after school, got some ice cream, and just kind of like talked about the day, talked about whatever that they were interested in. I don't really know. But anyways, they were sitting in a booth, and, you know, Gavin was actually recounting the story of the random emo kid that he bumped into, because, like, you know, he hadn't seen his friends in like a week or two, as these friends were not school friends. They were outside of school friends. They went to other places, but they were all close enough to congregate in the same ice cream place. And sure enough, they were like, oh, that dude, that's absolutely crazy. And as Gavin was like finishing up that story, he hears the doorbell open because there's like a bell on the door, and in walks 3 emo kids. However, they're not the emo kid that Gavin bumped into. So Gavin doesn't think anything of it. He's like, oh, speak of the devil. And like the other guys that Gavin is with, Gavin's friends, they turn around and they're like, dude, is one of those emo guys like, or one of those guys like the guy that you bumped into? And Gavin's like, no, that like I just thought it was funny that a bunch of like, you know, people who dressed like the guy who I bumped into like walked in as I was telling the story, but no, that's not the guy, or at least I'm pretty sure it's not, unless he like totally revamped his style and like looks totally different because of makeup or something. But he was pretty sure it wasn't. But weirdly enough, right, the emo kids walk right by, like, the front desk, right, or the place where you order the ice cream. And they weren't sitting at any of the open tables, as it was kind of like you'd seat yourself. They were walking right towards Gavin and his friends. So Gavin's like, all right, wait, hold up. These kids seem to be walking towards us. Do you guys know any of them? And Gavin's friends once again turn around and look closer, and they're just thinking to themselves, no. So they tell Gavin, like, no, we don't know these guys. And Gavin's like, well, it looks like we're about to know them. And sure enough, the 3 emo kids walk up and they're like, are you like the guy who bumped into one of our brothers yesterday? And Gavin is just looking at them like, huh? And Gavin was like, what are you talking about, dude? And he's like, yeah, no, this is definitely the one. One of the emo kids turns to the other guy and says that. And they're like, all right, bro, you were definitely the guy who bumped into brother, I don't know, Snake Lord. Did they get dude, it was some like really weird name, some kind of like derpy name or something. They were like, yeah, this is the guy who bumped into brother Snake Lord a couple days ago. And then they all turn to Gavin and they're like, this is your final warning. This is emo squad turf. And Gavin, probably should have done this. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter, but he bursts out laughing. He was like, yo, it's whose turf, dude? What? And they're like, this is not a laughing matter. This is the second offense against emo squad. He's like, emo what? Lol. And at this point, right, Gavin, he just can't stop laughing. He's like, so you're telling me that the guy I bumped into, his name is Lord Snake Lord. What? Brother Snake Lord, and that you guys are part of emo squad? And they're like, it's not a laughing matter. Stop laughing. Stop it. Nah. Real quick before I forget, because I keep on forgetting and it's annoying me, right? Comment emo down below if you made it this far into the video. It's the secret word, and I try my best to heart as many comments to say that as a way to say thank you. And by the way, if you want to support the channel and help me get to 500K a little bit faster, binge watch videos. There's playlists in the description. I literally appreciate that so much. Anyways, back to the story. And Gavin's like, you can't be serious, dude. And the emo kids are like, this is your last warning. Apologize to us on your knees. Apologize to us while bowing down, or you will suffer the consequences. You will face the wrath of emo squad. And Gavin's like, I'll face the wrath of what? Emo squad? LOL. So anyways, right, the emo kids are like, fine, you've sealed your fate. And the 3 of them walk out. And at this point, right, Gavin's friends also kind of join him and like laughing at this. They weren't laughing at the time because they were holding it in much better than Gavin was. But Gavin really at this point just did not care. Fast forward to the next day though. Goes to school, goes to his locker as always, is just trying to pick up his backpack. And, he sees that his locker has been opened. And he's like, okay, this is a little weird. And he opens up his locker and he sees a piece of paper. And he's like, all right, this piece of paper definitely was not here before. It looks like it's, intentionally in here. It was like folded up and it was like, it would look like a note. So he picks it up and he opens it up. And the letter is like written in red pen to be all spooky and mysterious. And it says, you have disrespected emo squad for the last time. You shall now suffer the consequences. And it was signed Emo Nation. And Gavin's like, Emo Nation? But nothing happens for the rest of the day. So Gavin was like pretty convinced that, this was kind of a big bluff and that nothing actually would happen. But anyways, right, the next day rolls around and Gavin has kind of completely forgotten about it. and it's recess, and he's just chilling with his friends. He's actually on the swings. I used to love the swings when, like, I used to go out to recess back in the day. The swings, me and the boys would always be on those. It was fire. But anyways, though, right, he was just kind of chilling on the swings, and he sees this squad of 6 emo kids, or at least they're dressed up like emo kids. They walk up to him. And Gavin's thinking to himself, oh my god, it's the Supreme Lord Emo Nation squad game forever, hashtag bruh. Like, it is, oh no, guys, they're coming. And they walk up to him, and they're like, so, how's it feeling? And Gavin's like, bro, what? And they're like, you're totally scared right now. I can see through you. And Gavin's like, scared of what? The squad fam of Emo Nation? They're like, no, the Brotherhood. Don't disrespect the Brotherhood. And Gavin's like, whatever, lol. And then one of the emo kids says, so, are you ready for the attack? The great emo versus nerd war? And look, Gavin's just like, wait, am I the nerd in this situation? They're like, yes, nerd. And he's like, bro. Okay, I'm ready for the great battle. Is it going to be greater than World War I, II, and III combined? Is this going to be like D-Day, but 1,000 times bigger and more epic and more explosions? And the emo kids, unironically, were like, yes! Are you scared? Gavin's like, no, lol. And they're just like, you should be. And they all kind of run away, and they all like Sonic dash away. Apparently, like, the sign of the emo kids was like Sonic dashing away, which, like, if you're trying to be intimidating, I don't know if Sonic dashing away is gonna really, like, I don't know, man. You know what? I don't get it. Maybe I'm just a big old hater. Who knows, dude? Anyways, though, skip forward to Saturday, so 2 days later, nothing happens in the next 2 days. But sure enough, right, Gavin and his friends, they kind of congregate, and they're going to go hang out at the park for that day. It was a really nice day out. I don't know, they were just trying to chill outside. But the thing is, right, as Gavin was walking and they were kind of like collecting all the guys or whatever, Gavin was noticing that, there was this emo kid who was walking on the other side of the sidewalk. And he was like, okay, well, this is a little bit weird. And he notices that the emo kid is like looking at them and like looking away. His eyes are like darting back and forth. And then he picks out a phone and is like whispering into the phone. And Gavin is like, hey, because he told his friends about what's been happening the last couple of days. He's like, by the way, we might be having some unexpected fun at the park or whatever is about to happen. And he kind of like points to the emo kid. And the emo kid is like runs away quickly. And so Gavin and his friends, they're walking to the park, and they just notice like random people dressed in all emo like randomly appear around them and kind of like look at them talking to phones. And Gavin's like, by the way, they said that they were going to have like an epic battle or something, so I guess prepare yourselves. So Gavin and his friends make it to the park, and they're just walking in when they see like from the trees, from the bushes, 10 emo kids, 10, 11, 12, they all charge out, and they're like, this is the final battle. This will go down in the history books. And Gavin notices that they all have Nerf guns. And he's just like, oh my god, no shot. And yeah, so they all walk out with these Nerf guns, and they're like, what are your final words? And Gavin turns to his friends. He's like, all right, so my fault. I realized that they were weird and cringe, but this is like a whole new level. So my bad. We're going to have a very weird day today. And they're like, if those are the last words you've chosen, then so be it. And then they start shooting the Nerf guns at him, and like they just kind of like bounce off of him. But Gavin notices that all the Nerf bullets were like colored black with like a black Sharpie, just to be even more edgy and emo and like, oh my god, society or whatever, right? And Gavin's like, oh no, these foam like pellets are slightly annoying. No, but like he's just like, guys, can you stop? This is kind of annoying. And they're like, I know that you would crumble. I know that you would fail. No mercy. And they just come in. They're still like shooting these like little foam black bullets or whatever. And he's just like, guys, please, this is getting annoying. I'm just trying to chill at the park with my friends. And they're like, you shouldn't have disrespected Emo Squad then. And he's like, Emo Squad. They're like, no, stop living. And sure enough, right, they just keep shooting their Nerf guns until they run out of bullets. And then they're like, looks like we won this battle. And Gavin's just literally standing there with a pile of like poorly drawn Nerf bullets, right? And he's like, what? And they're like, yeah. you got so scared. And Gavin's like, dude, what are you talking about? And they're like, we won this. And then they all like get up, like they got all their Nerf guns together and they're running away. And they're like, and Gavin could hear them yell, yeah, we just won. Let's report back to Emo Squad. Kevin's like, okay. Okay, man, like, this is really getting annoying, but I guess you won. Let's hope this is the end of it. But unfortunately, it was not the end of it. Yeah, no, these kids are crazy, bro. So things start to get really, really weird one day, like a couple days later, when Gavin's just chilling in his room, he's on his phone, and he's actually on Instagram, he's just liking people's photos or whatever, just kind of like chilling out, and he gets a follow request from an account called emo_nation, like in a bunch of letters or whatever. I'm not going to give you the exact username, as I wasn't even given the exact username. And apparently the account's deleted now or whatever. So like, unfortunately, we can't go look at the account ourselves and cringe and laugh or whatever. But sure enough, right, you know, the account DMs him. And this is where things actually get kind of weird. They DM him a video. And Gavin looks at the video, and the video is of Gavin sitting on his phone, liking photos on Instagram. So Gavin immediately gets up, he goes out, and he sees his window is open. There's no, his shades are not drawn. He runs out, like, looks out his window, and, you know, his yard is empty. But sure enough, like maybe a couple minutes ago or a couple 20 minutes ago or whatever, maybe even like 30 seconds ago, there was one of the emo kids who was recording him from his backyard looking into his window. At this point, right, Gavin's like, all right, that's weird. I'm starting to get weirded out. I know these kids are just cringe and lame, and all they're going to do is like cast spells on me and like say society hates us. But still, I really don't like this invasion of privacy. So Gavin's thinking to himself, all right, so I'm just going to screw over all these kids like for messing with me at this point, and I know for a fact how I'm going to do it. So Gavin basically has a plan where he wants to get them to admit in writing who's doing this, and just to like admit it so then he can report it to the principals and get them to stop doing anything. So Gavin like finds the account again, sends it a message, is like, bro, like I'm waving the white flag, I need to surrender, you guys are too powerful, but first I must know who is it in the emo squad. And of course the account is like, responds, ha 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 ha, I knew you would crumble, I knew you would fall, kind of goes on this like, I don't know, this big old Shakespearean big like, oh, you have failed, we have won, emo squad will reign supreme forever. And he's like, all right, like, yeah, I totally lose, guys, you're so right, but can you tell me, who did I lose to? I must know the names. And then Gavin's like, it is a soldier's honor to tell me who it is. He just made something up to make it sound like something that they had to tell him the names, to be honorable or something. And the emo squad legitimately says, the members of the emo squad are, and then legitimately just gives a list of names. And Gavin's like, wait, bro, you're serious? You're just gonna self-report this hard to me? Cool. I'll take it, dude. So then Gavin goes on to say, so it was you guys, the people you just listed, who, you know, recorded me in my house and attacked me at the park and threatened me and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, yes, it was us. It is a soldier's honor to tell you who it was. And at this point, Gavin's like, bro, I just made that up, but like, thanks for believing it, dude. Like, it's just going to make my life so much easier. And he's like, wow, you guys really have won. And they're like, we have won the battle, but not the war. We shall not stop until you understand the truth of how you've disrespected the emo squad. And Gavin at this point, right, you know, he's real careful to screen record the whole conversation, get screenshots, somehow back it up, because like you can unsend or delete Instagram DMs. You can also delete accounts or whatever. So after Gavin has gotten all the proof, he responds, lol, emo squad, such a nerd name, and then stops responding. And they say, what? I thought you surrendered. Well, we're gonna attack even harder now. You don't know what we're capable of. But apparently Emo Squad was also not aware of what Gavin was capable of, because the next day, Gavin goes to the principal and he's like, hey, can I talk to you for a second? The principal's like, yeah, sure, what's up? And Gavin tells the entire story of what happened, and she's like, what? And he's like, oh yeah, by the way, I have names of exactly who is in Emo Squad, and the principal's like, pfft. And Gavin's like, I know, but hold up, and shows her the video.
tells her about everything, and then shows her the proof. And she's like, wow, like normally it's like we don't get evidence this like convincing. Like, good job. Like, actually, like normally we would have taken your stuff seriously if you just came forward with the story. But the fact that you also got them to admit with a list of names, that's pretty good. And sure enough, right, every guy that was like, or everyone who was listed on the Emo Squad account was following the account too. So it was pretty clear they didn't just list random people. And yeah, sure enough, right, Gavin goes to class, and he's sitting in class when he hears on the loudspeaker the list of names in the Emo Squad, and then followed up by, can the following names like report to the principal's office, and then the list of names in the Emo Squad. And Gavin's just sitting there like, what a coincidence. That totally wasn't me. And yeah, so sure enough, right, everyone in the Emo Squad gets like, they don't get suspended, but they get detention right after school for the next 2 weeks. And also, they're now placed on kind of thin ice, aka if they do anything against Gavin at all, they will get actually suspended. And if they do anything again, they'll get like full-on expelled. So the Emo Squad never really like messes with Gavin again, except this one time about a week later. So they'd been in like in-school detention for about a week. Gavin passes one of the emo kids, and the emo kid looks at him and hisses at him and then walks away. And Gavin's just like... I mean, what did I expect?
Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it. Do it.
You know those kids that when they're in an argument and they're starting to lose, they'll like bring up, my mom does, or my dad is, or like something like that, or my dad works for, or my dad's a lawyer, man, or just imagine those kids, right? Imagine that kid. Multiply them by 100 and you have today's spoiled brat. Enjoy the story. So the subscriber who sent in the story, and by the way, you can send in stories too to my Instagram in the description, be featured on the channel, love to see it. Let's just call this kid Jake, right? Anyways, Jake, good kid. And in Jake's class, right, there was a kid who was kind of the worst kid ever. I'm just kidding, I'm sure that there's someone worse, but he was the spoiled brat kid that I gave a brief description for in the beginning. Let's call this guy Thomas, right? Thomas. And then there's another girl in the class, and this girl, her name's Emma. Emma's pretty crucial to the story, but that'll become a little bit more apparent in just a second. Anyways, right, so just a little backstory before we go into what Thomas did, his crazy mental breakdown, explosion, calling my dad on literally everything, and whatever, right, you'll see in a second. But a little bit of a backstory, right? So Jake, the kid who sent in the story, and this girl, Emma, they pretty obviously had feelings for each other, like they were always like friends, but it was very clear that like, they were not about to stay friends for long. They were either going to have a massive explosion and never talk to each other ever again, or they were gonna like date, marry, have 6 kids, send 2 kids off to college, start a Roth IRA, start mining Bitcoin as all couples do. It was gonna be either or, and it was really looking like Jake was gonna ask her out pretty soon. Like everybody in the class knew this, except Thomas, because Thomas didn't have a lot of friends, so we'll put it that way. But it was kind of due to him being a jerk face. I don't know how else to put it, man. I don't know how else to put it. It just is what it is. Anyways, right, so, Jake, he's in class one day. And, at this point, he kind of has, like, plans to ask Emma out at some point this week, right? He knows he's going to do it. And the thing is, like, everybody knows he's going to do it, too. Even, like, Emma is, like, 98% sure because people who talk to Jake talk to her. Secrets, they don't last long. Secrets are no fun unless you share them with me, not anyone else, just me. But anyways, right, so he was kind of thinking about this in the back of his head, so he was kind of having a good time. It was a fun week. Things were looking good. But then, this kid Thomas, right? Thomas had a reputation for being that kid who was like, no one ever said no, right? He had a lot of, resources and completely abused them, right? He would come in and he would like, if someone had like something new, he would get the new thing +1 or like with more storage or just slightly newer or slightly cooler. And while he wouldn't like blatantly, like I've talked about kids in the past that have blatantly been like, haha, my phone is better than yours because it has like it's slightly bigger or has like another camera or something, or it's newer, Thomas would never be that blatant about it. But it was very apparent that whenever someone got something, that Thomas the next day would get something that was just a little bit better, that it was 100% on purpose. Like, this kid was definitely knew what he's doing. So one day when Jake was in class, and remember, he's at this point kind of planning to ask out Emma. Emma knows, the whole class knows, the teacher knows, like, I know at this point, I'm just kidding. I have no idea who these people are, but anyways, right? They kind of know it, and he's chilling in class one day, and he overhears, Thomas. Thomas is going on one of his little rants. Because while Thomas wasn't always blatant about being a jerk, he could be very arrogant at times, such as like a couple weeks ago. He was like, guys, I'm not even gonna study for this test, man. I'm literally I'm just born different. And Thomas claimed to get 100 on the test, but, the thing is, one of the classmates did a little bit of an investigation by themselves and figured out that Thomas got a 42, which, look, these things happen, right? You try and avoid those. Sometimes tests are hard, but you never go around saying that you got 100. I mean, maybe you're like, oh, dude, I got a C on that test, and you actually, failed it. I'm fine with that. Whatever, dude. But don't go around saying you got 100 when you got a 42 or something. I don't know. Anyways, right, so Thomas was going on one of his little rants, and Jake decided to overhear what Thomas's rant was. And it was very kind of awkward yet pretty funny for Jake, because Thomas was talking about how Emma was in love with him. And at first Jake was like, bro, what? And Thomas was talking really loudly to this kid, and he was like, yeah, Emma, she's in love with me, man. She just can't, I see her all the time. She's looking over at me with these eyes of desire. And that's a quote, by the way. Sometimes I make up the lines for what these people are saying, because I didn't get a 50-page script, but that one was a quote, right? This was a quote, right? Jake told, or the subscriber who we're calling Jake, said that this kid actually said eyes of desire or something crazy like that. So at this point, Jake is like, LOL, what? And yeah, Thomas, the kid, a spoiled brat kid, who you will see have a epic meltdown in just a second. Just give me a second, right? This kid then goes on to say that he's going to ask out Emma, and that there's a 100% chance that she's going to say yes. And at this point, Jake is like, all right, I'm trying to find the betting house so I can make a bet on this 100% bet, because I could probably get a pretty good reward for that, probably some pretty good odds, or the odds would be terrible if it's really 100%, and I will definitely make some money on this bet. That's all I'm going to say. But anyways, right, so Jake was sitting there. He's like, that's funny, haha. He didn't actually think Thomas was going to go through with it, because Thomas in the past had made a lot of very, very big claims. He's that kid who always says things, but never really does them, right? He never really ends up following through with the stuff. But, anyways, they get out of class, and they're walking down the hallway, and, Jake, the subscriber, he sees Emma, and Emma's like, oh, hi, Jake, how's it going? And Jake is like, Emma, can we talk for a second? Because Jake was thinking to himself, he's like, you know what? I think I should just ask her out now. I don't want her to feel to say yes to this kid just because she feels bad, and then it's weird. And he said also why am I stringing her on? Why am I making this longer than it needs to be? So what he did is he did it really private, nothing really crazy, and he just took her aside, and he's like, hey, we've been having a really, really good time together. I've really enjoyed spending time with you. And he's like, I feel like we're not really friends right now, and I want to make it official. And she was all smiley and happy, man. I really have to make this part up because I don't have a lot of experience when it comes to, you know what? I'm not even gonna go to that, man. One like equals one prayer for, my love life, but whatever, dude. Jake says something really sweet, I don't know, your feet are hot, LOL, XD. He says something really sweet and just something a girl wants to hear, what I just said. By the way, guys, feel free to use that banger on someone. It will 100% work. I'm as confident that it's gonna work that I am as confident that this kid's not gonna have a complete mental breakdown. And by mental breakdown, I mean Thomas having a complete rage. But anyways, right? But that's a joke. Don't actually use that line. I'm not liable if you get rejected or punched in the face. Don't actually use that line, guys. Anyways, right, so, Jake, he asked out Emma, and guess what? Emma said yes. Not a surprise at all. But anyways, right, so, they're walking out, and, good news, Jake just asked out Emma. She said yes. He's having a good time. People are Emma goes up to her group of friends and starts telling them ooh, kind of fun high school drama stuff like that. Oh, yay, congrats, guys, whatever. But here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. Thomas is not aware of this fact. I mean, first of all, she'd never say yes to Thomas because he's kind of a jerk. But Thomas, good guy, actually not good guy, but you know, Thomas, right? He's not aware of this. Anyways, right, so you get out to the hall, and Jake is somewhere, like, Jake is kind of near, like, he's in the hallway, because it's, like, in between classes or whatever, or it's, like, during a whatever. I don't know exactly the context, but for some reason, a bunch of kids were just, like, chilling somewhere. Maybe it's the hall, maybe it's out at, like, recess, maybe it's a common area. Either way, imagine a place where all these kids are at. And Thomas is there, and he sees Emma, and he's like, hey, Emma, can I talk to you for a second? And here's the thing, right? Emma was totally aware, like when Jake like called her aside, she knew exactly what was happening because they'd been kind of like talking for a week like that, you know, like they had kind of been like that for a while. Either way, right, so when Thomas calls Emma aside, she had no idea what to expect. She had never talked to this kid before. Yeah, the whole like Thomas telling people that she was in love with him. That just wasn't true, man. That just was not true. Anyways, right, so Thomas, he calls Emma aside, but he calls her aside not really, like Jake like actually brought her to like a different place. Thomas did this in front of actually everyone. He went up to her and he's like, hey, and she's like, what's up? And he's like, you've been totally looking at me recently with these eyes. And she's like, what are you talking about? He's like, it doesn't matter. Will you be my girlfriend? And he just kind of like looks at her with like these eyes. He's like, huh? Will you? What do you say? And she's like, okay, here's the thing. She wouldn't have said yes anyways, but she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And at this point, his face drops. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm actually just got in a relationship with someone. And he's like, who? Yeah, and Emma's like, yeah, you know Jake? And he's like, what? And she's like, yeah, I know Jake just asked me out and we just got together like literally today. Like, I'm sorry, like I just got in a relationship. Obviously she's using this as a cop-out because she was going to say no anyways. So this is like the nicest way she can say no. But, and then the thing is though, Thomas doesn't take this well. The way that Thomas perceived this whole thing going down was that, no. She didn't say no because like he was undateable. Or because she didn't want to. She said no because she really wanted to. She wanted him, but she simply couldn't because she was stuck in a relationship with Jake. And this made Thomas so mad. And you could see his face get so red. And he took his little hand and he like balled it up in a fist. And he was like, where is Thomas? I'm really bad at this whole name thing. Of course, Thomas didn't say, where is Thomas? Thomas said, where is Jake? And Jake like just happened to like walk in like just wherever they were, hallway, room, whatever, or just gathering place. He just happened to like walk in as that was happening. And he looks up and he sees like Emma, his girlfriend of like 25 minutes at this point, right? And then like Thomas, the kid that like he knew that was like kind of like weird and kind of like out of this, like just lived in a different planet, looking at him with this like face of rage. And Jake was just like, oh boy. Speaking of rage, today's keyword or special or secret phrase or whatever you want to call it is rage. So yeah, if you made it this far into the video, comment rage down below. I'll be hearting as many of those comments as I see. I obviously can't get to them all, but I will do my very best to try and heart as many as I can. So if you want to farm some hearts on the channel, maybe get top commenter, best shot of that happening is by commenting rage down below. Also, every once in a while, I'll shout out a channel member who leaves a comment on the video. So yeah, on screen, thank you very much. You guys can also become a channel member by hitting the join button, but honestly, you guys don't have to do that. I just appreciate you watching this far. I really do. And also, to show you my gratitude, every single person who leaves a like on today's video, just dropping a like on the video, will receive nothing. I know you're probably just like, if you're standing up, you fell down. If you're sitting in a seat, you literally collapsed out of your seat. It's a fantastic deal. Leaving a like on the video and you get nothing? I'm gonna leave a like right now. Anyways, right, so where we left off was Thomas just got rejected by Emma. And in Thomas's mind, it is Jake's fault. Emma actually is still in love with him, but it's all because of Jake. He can't have her because of Jake. He like goes up to Jake and he's like, bro. And Jake's like, what's up, dude? He's like, bro, do you want to fight? I love it when people are just like, do you want to fight, man? Like, no one wants to fight. no one's gonna box you. You're not KSI and Logan Paul. No one's gonna watch it. Just why, dude? Like, whatever, right? Tangent. He's like, do you want to fight, bro? And Jake's like, dude, what? And then Thomas is like, yo, Emma rejected me because of you. And Jake's like, dude, she rejected you because you're a jerk. Jake had no filter, right? Like, good kid, but like no filter. He's like, you're always annoying. You're always bragging about stuff. You're always full of it. Like, even if she wasn't with me, like, unlucky to you, but even if she wasn't with me, she would have said no. And at this point, Thomas just goes berserk. And he just looks at Jake and he's like, you know what my dad does? And at this point, Jake is like, dude, I do not care. And Thomas is like, no, he is a very good lawyer, and he's gonna sue you, dude. And Jake is just looking at him, just completely just flabbergasted. Just like, did this kid just say that his dad is actually gonna sue me because my girlfriend denied his love application? What the fuck? What? Like, at this point, he kind of thought it was a joke, but no, he looked at this kid, this Thomas, he could see it in this kid's Thomas's eyes, right? This was no joke. This kid was mad, and he was like, yeah, my dad's gonna sue you, man. He's gonna sue you. You're gonna have nothing left. Your mom's gonna have nothing left. Your dad's gonna have nothing left. Your sister's gonna have nothing left. Your dog's gonna have nothing left. And then you're gonna collapse and die of a heart attack out of pain and sadness and whatever. And then your grave is gonna have nothing left. He was just going off and off and off. And Jake is like, okay. And that made Thomas so mad. He was like, this won't be the last of it, Jake. And he just like storms off. And at this point, the whole class is just like, what the fuck? What? And Emma's just like, okay. And Jake's like, you know what? Do you want to go on our first date tonight? Do you want to get out of here? It was like close to the end of school anyways. And Emma's like, yeah, I think I will. Subscribe if you haven't already, and now go click on another video. There's some on screen. Click. Dude, why have you not clicked?
Today we get a story time of probably one of the most cringiest kids ever to ever exist on planet Earth in the entire universe. I don't want to spoil this too much, so I just want to hop right into it. So leave a like for nothing, and let's just get into it. So we're going to call the subscriber who sent us today's story, we're going to call him Liam. And anyways, right, so this all happened one day when Liam was in class. And Liam was sitting kind of towards the back of his class with his friends, like, he wasn't paying that close of attention. All right, guys, do well in school. That's all I'm going to try and say. But anyways, Liam was kind of dozing off, not really paying attention, when this kind of kid that, like, he didn't know that well, but was kind of known as kind of a little weird, kind of a little strange. But this kid, like, turns to Liam and his friends and says, hey, like, do you guys have girlfriends? Very kind of a weird thing to lead with, especially if you don't know the guy. I wouldn't be going up to random people saying, hey, do you have a girlfriend? Like, I don't know, man. That sounds kind of weird. But anyways, right, so this kid is just like, hey, do you have a girlfriend? And Liam and his friends at the time did not. I mean, hey, man, like, you can't always be winning. Sometimes, you're in the trenches. It happens. But they're all like, no. And they say no kind of with a bit of attitude because, that's a weird question to ask. And this kid just looks at them and kind of scoffs. He's like, sucks to be you guys. I couldn't imagine being single like that. And, Liam is like, bro, what are you talking about? And this guy's like, yeah, I probably had the hottest girlfriend ever. And Liam's like, really? Like, what's her name? And he's like, Sandra. Yeah, she's super hot. And like, at this point, Liam's like, all right, let's see a photo of her then. Like, what she look like? And, the kid's like, she doesn't go to this school, but she's at my house right now waiting for me. At this point, right, Liam's like, all right, proof or didn't happen, bro. Like, I need to see some proof. And Liam and his friends were basically saying, we don't believe you, man. Like, we think you're just capping right now. We think that, like, what you're saying is no, you're just bragging with nothing to actually brag about. And so this kid, who we're just going to call the cringy kid, right? The cringy kid was like, no. No, I'll have you know that my girlfriend is real and she loves me and she's at my house right now. You know what? And Liam is looking at him. He's like, yeah, what? And this kid's like, you know what? Come to my house after school and I'll introduce her to you, and I will watch your face. I will watch your expression slowly crumble as you realize that I am entangled with the woman of my dreams in a beautiful relationship. Remember, they're in 6th grade, so bro, you're not getting married. But anyways, he's like, and I will win. I will conquer you. It will be victory. As I said, this is a very weird kid. Like, hey man, if you're like saying, I will conquer you, this will be victory, like to anyone, bro, check yourself. That's all I'm saying. But anyways, right, Liam is like thinking to himself, he's like, all right, I don't actually think I have anything to do after school. I'm just going to tell my mom that, I have a thing that I have to do after school and like that I'll be home an hour later. And he turns to his friends. He's like, hey, are you guys busy? And they're like, I mean, yes, but we're still going to come over. We want to see this girlfriend, right? Because they all believe that like this was some elaborate scheme and they wanted to figure out like what actually was this kid cooking up? What was his plan? So Liam and his friends turned to the cringy kid and it's like, yeah, man, sure. We'll come to your house after school. And the cringy kid is like, excellent. You shall suffer the consequences. And then goes back to like reading his like comic book anime type thing. And they're just like, all right. Anyway, so skip ahead a little bit, and Liam and his boys are walking over to the cringy kid's house. And the cringy kid is actually greeted at the door by his mom. It's like, oh, I'm so excited you brought friends back, whatever, right? And the cringy kid's like, yeah, these are my guys. And they're kind of looking at each other like, we're not his boys, but they're not going to say anything. They're at least polite enough to at least allow, his mom to continue to believe the illusion that he's not kind of weird, right? Anyways, so, the cringy kid leads him up, and he's like, this is my house, it's pretty cool, and this is my room, and brace yourself, and he, like, turns around quickly when he says brace yourself, so, Liam and his friends are a little startled by this, because they're like, what's going on, and he's like, my girlfriend is, she just texted me, she is currently in there, and, you're gonna be blown away, dude, you're gonna be blown away, and I just want to say that, I told you so, I just wanted to make sure I put that out there, and Liam's like, all right, okay. And honestly, at this point, Liam and his friends were starting to believe that there actually was a girlfriend in there. Spoiler. I mean, no spoilers. You're going to hear soon enough. But, like, they were actually starting to believe it, man. Because, like, it was, like, this kid went through all this effort. Like, if he's going to admit, like, that he was lying, he probably would have admitted it already. But anyways, right? So, eventually, the cringy kid goes into his room, and they follow. And Liam looks around. And Liam's kind of confused, dude. Liam's a little bit confused. Because as he's looking around, he doesn't see anyone else in the room. He just sees a lot of posters for, like, different TV shows and stuff like that. And, he sees a computer, he sees a closet, he sees clothes all over the floor. Like, he doesn't see a girl in here. He doesn't see a human at all. Like, the only people in this room is the cringy kid, Liam, and his 2 other friends. And then all of a sudden, right, Liam is noticing that the cringy kid is talking to someone in the room. So Liam feels like, oh my God, am I hallucinating? Like, what's going on? Like, why don't I see anyone? And Liam looks in the direction that the cringy kid was talking. And sure enough, right, the cringy kid is talking in the direction of his bed. And what is on his bed? A life's... Oh my God, dude. When I read this story, I was like, dude, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Anyways, narrator mode, back in story. Liam turned his head to look at the direction that the kid was talking. And there was like a massive waifu body pillow, bro. Oh no. And at that moment, Liam and his friends realized that this girlfriend the kid had been talking about was sure enough this pillow. By the way, comment pillow down below. Yeah, pillow's the secret word of the day. I'll try and heart as many of those comments as I possibly can. If I don't get to yours, don't take it personally. And also, while you're down there, make sure the notifications are turned on. You won't see my videos otherwise. But anyways, back to the story. So Liam immediately says, bro, is that what you're talking about? And the kid is like, oh, yes, I'm so rude. Liam, meet my princess. And Liam is like, nah. Liam and his friends start laughing. And this kid is not like, he's not in on a joke or anything. This is not some massive joke he's pulling on them. That he's like, oh, I hope you guys thought it was funny. Dude was getting actually pressed. Like, dude was like, who are you laughing at? You better not be laughing at my girlfriend. And, Liam's like, bro, that's a pillow. And the kid's like, she's real. What? She's real. What do you mean, man? Get out of my house. And Liam is like laughing.
And then he looks at the kid, and the kid is like, has like these eyes. You can tell in his eyes, this kid is mad. This kid is pressed. This guy is not having it. He's like, get out of my. And Liam's like, all right, okay. We saw your girlfriend. We saw her. We'll go. Fair enough. So Liam and his friends leave. And as they're walking out of the house, the cringy kid's mom's like, bye. This was kind of a short play date, but I'm so excited that my kid's finally having other people over that it doesn't matter. Hope to see you guys soon. And they're just like, haha, see you soon. Anyways, right, the next day in school, they all go to like their math class or whatever, and they notice that, or whatever class they're in, it doesn't really matter. Well, and they notice that the cringy kid is not in class. And, Liam turns to his friends, he's like, yo, do you think he's like too embarrassed to come to class? Does he like realize that he made kind of a clown out of himself? And his friends are like, dude, I have no idea. And then all of a sudden, they hear on the loudspeaker, Liam, Ben, and John, let's just say that those are the names of the two other kids. Please come to the principal's office immediately. So Liam, Ben, and John, we'll go with that, right? They all look at each other. And they just they immediately know. They're like, oh my God, no way. Because they realize that there's a correlation between the cringy kid not being in class, them clowning on him yesterday, and the fact that they all just got called up to the principal's office. It was not a coincidence. So they walk up there, and sure enough, the principal's in her room, and who else is in that room? The cringy kid. And the principal says, all right, kids, sit down. So your friend over here says that you went to his house and berated his girlfriend, calling her ugly, fat, overweight, disgusting, smelly, and that she needed to die. Is this true? And Liam looks at her and says, no, that is not true. And then Liam goes on to say, actually, this kid said that he had a girlfriend, and he was bragging to us, so we decided to go to his house to see his girlfriend, which he invited us there. And when we got there, we realized that he does not have a girlfriend. He just has a 4-foot-tall waifu body pillow. And we said that she wasn't real. He got mad at us, and here we are today. And then, the kid, the cringy kid, instead of sticking to his original story that he, one, actually had a girlfriend, and two, that they came to his house to insult his girlfriend, was like, see, that's even worse. I made up something because I thought you'd be so offended by what actually happened, and they just admitted to it. And the principal is kind of shocked. One, because of the thing that Liam just told her, and two, that the kid, the cringy kid, admitted to lying to her face and then expected her to punish them even harder because of the story they told. And the principal looks up at Liam and says, and his friends, and is like, you guys can go back to class now. I have something to deal with. And as Liam and his friends are walking out of the principal's office, they can faintly hear the cringy kid yelling, you're just letting them go. That's outrageous. Subscribe if you haven't already done so, drop a like in the videos, and then click on one of the 4 videos you see on screen right now, or just go ahead and watch another one of my videos. Peace.
How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a good day. Today, we got some crazy emo kid stories that I know for a fact you will enjoy. So sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's call the first subscriber who submitted this story Hank. By the way, all these episodes are on Spotify, and they normally come out a couple hours early on Spotify, so make sure to check that out. First link in the description. Anyways, back to the story. So we're going to call the first subscriber who submitted the story Hank. And anyways, this all happened when Hank was shopping at the mall. So Hank used to always go to the mall to shop with his friends. It was just a fun place to hang out. They didn't really have a lot of other places that they could go in the town that they lived in, so the mall was probably their best bet. And sure enough, one of these days, one of Hank's friends wanted to shop at this place called Hot Topic. If you don't know, Hot Topic's a place where they have a lot of t-shirts and other kind of apparel that is very, I don't know, fast fashion-y, brand-centric. It's very much you'll have a lot of different brands, or kind of you'll find a lot of band t-shirts, a lot of kind of okay, so a lot of different stuff's at Hot Topic, but one kind of theme of clothing that you'll see at Hot Topic is emo style clothing, if that makes sense. So really black clothing, edgy clothing, stuff like that. And just so you know, I have nothing against it if you dress like that. I think it's a cool enough style. I think you're fine even if you identify as oh, I'm emo in the way I dress or act or whatever. I don't really care. Live your life.
However, as long as you don't act like the kids in these videos, especially this one, you're chill with me. But anyways, Hank just was like, okay, man, like you want to go to Hot Topic, that's fine. Hank hadn't really been in that much, so he didn't really know what to expect. So Hank was walking into the Hot Topic, and he was looking around, and there's a whole host of people. And Hank's friend was like, all right, man, like I'm gonna go to the back of the room. I know what I want. I'm gonna go in their skateboard section. You can kind of just wander around here. I'll be out when I'm done. So Hank was totally fine with this, and Hank kind of like was wandering around, and he walked over to one of the t-shirt aisles, or one of the t-shirt rack aisles, and that's when he accidentally bumped into this kid. And this kid turns around. And just to paint the picture, this kid has super long black hair. He's got like black mascara on, black lipstick. He's got black painted nails. He's got a spiky collar. He's got like a black band t-shirt. He's got like long black jeans, and then those like big black stomper boots. I don't know if you know what I know, like if you know what I mean, but like those big, kind of like those big rubber black boots that are pretty popular right now. And he turns around and he's like, dude, what the heck, bro? And Hank's just like, all right, my fault. Like, I didn't mean to bump into you like that. I was just looking around and wasn't paying attention. And the emo kid's like, dude, you're like, shut up, bro. Hank's kind of just looking at him like, I don't really know what you mean. Like, I didn't do anything. Like, are you good? And the emo kid's like, bro, like, I don't need to hear that sass from you, bro. Like, I really just don't need to hear that. And Hank says once again, like, dude, I don't know what you're saying. Like, I'm sorry. I'll just go the other way. And Hank kind of turns around to de-escalate because he doesn't feel like, escalating anything. It's just not a good idea to get into fights like that. And that's when the emo kid's like, yeah, you would run. You're dressed like one of those jocks anyways. Which, like, Hank kind of turned around because he didn't know what that even means. First of all, I mean, isn't jock a positive thing? Like, I get that there's a bit of a negative connotation of like, oh, you're a dumb jock or something. But I would have thought that like jock would have meant like, oh, you're an athlete, which isn't that a good thing? Like, I'm kind of confused right now. Is that not a good thing? And Hank, kind of turns back. And he's like, dude, like, why? Like, why are you like making a problem with me? I don't have a problem with you. You're kind of the one that's making this into something, because Hank really did believe like I'm not the one doing anything. It's like 100% this guy who's making it something, And the kid's just like, well, like you're just looking like a dumb jock. Oh, isn't that right, guys? And he turns around and there's two other emo kids, and they look very similar to the main emo kid, but they kind of just they're dressed slightly different, but really. I mean, it's funny how, like, I saw this on South Park, but it's funny how, like, nonconformists all dress the same. I'm just like, well, I mean, you are conforming to something, but anyways, right? So the other two kids, the other emo kids are kind of there along too, laughing. And, Hank is starting to, like, get upset by this because he doesn't really care about, like, these random kids, what they think, except, he's got three kids standing there pointing at him, laughing in his face when Hank didn't deserve it. Like, Hank was thinking, like, look, if I deserve this, if I was being, like, an absolute, like, if I was being a jerk to them, or for some reason I actually did something, sure, maybe I deserve this. But Hank's just thinking to himself, like, dude, I don't deserve this. I was literally just chilling here. I actually bumped into this kid. Like, I'm sorry about that. Like, my fault. Once again, my fault. But that's when Hank turned the tables on the emo kid. And the thing is, right, the emo kid was wearing a band t-shirt. And the thing about band t-shirts is, you don't necessarily need to know everything about some place that you rep. Like, if you wear a t-shirt that's from Starbucks and someone's like, okay, well then name all the flavors of like cappuccino you can get. It doesn't have to be like that. But the thing is, a lot of people wear band t-shirts because the band t-shirts look sick, and they don't know any of the songs from the band, which, I guess is fine. But like at the end of the day, a lot of people will kind of pretend to know it and not actually know it. So, Hank was like, well, screw it, bro. He's like, all right, buddy. And he looks at the main emo kid, and the main emo kid looks at him back. And he's like, all right, buddy, name me 3 songs from that band. And he points to the emo kid's t-shirt. And I don't know, maybe it was like Nirvana or something. Like one of those kind of like t-shirts or whatever, which, and the emo kid looks at him, and he has this kind of look of shock. This look of, oh my God, like you caught me. Kind of the look of like, man got caught in a trap right here type of look. And the emo kid's kind of just like,
how about you name me 3 songs from this band, bro? And the emo kid turns to look back at his emo kid friends as kind of like, oh, what's their reaction to that sick burn? And they kind of just look at him blankly. I think the emo kid was kind of expecting he would turn around, he'd look back to his friends, and he'd be like, oh yeah, wasn't that a crazy burn? I totally got them. But his friends look back at him kind of just like, dude, like, I don't know how to break it to you, but you didn't get him. So the emo kid turns back around. He's like, I don't need to do anything you say, bro. I'm not going to conform to your standards. And then the 2 emo kids were like, yeah, that's right on, bro. You're so right. And they like dap him up. And Hank at this point he's just so done. He's just like, bro, because he realizes, like, Hank's like, you know what? I'm not going to fight with these kids. These kids are obviously a lost cause. This is not worth my time. So Hank gets up, he turns around, and he's kind of says, like, whatever, man, like, go live your life. Hank turns around, starts to walk away, and that's when he feels a tug on his pants. And he turns around, and he sees the emo kid failing to pull down his pants. So basically, the emo kid couldn't, like, wanted to, like, he couldn't let Hank just leave by himself. Like, he couldn't let him just do that. So when Hank turned around and started to walk away, the emo kid, like, went to jump and try and pull down his pants to, like, pants him, to embarrass him, to, like, impress his emo kid friends and be like, oh my god, I totally owned him, dude. So at this point, like, Hank is like, dude, stop pulling down my pants, bro. And the emo kid's like, oh, sorry, I just slipped. And he's like, And his emo kid friends laugh along as well. At this point, Hank's getting really annoying. He's like, sorry, bro, like, I'm not into you like that. He's like, what? He's like, yeah, you're trying to pull down my pants. So you're telling me you're not trying to get a peek? And the emo kid's like, dude, it's not like that. I was trying to pants you. And Hank's like, yeah. You wanted to pants me so you could see my bare bottom. Did you really want to see my bare bottom that bad? And at this point, the other 2 emo kids start laughing a little bit. And the main emo kid turns around and he's like, stop laughing, it's not funny. He turns back around, he's like, dude, you don't know what you just did. And the emo kid walks up to Hank with his chest puffed out. He's like, bro, you literally don't know what you just did. You don't know who you're messing with. Okay, I don't know if he started to tear up or anything. But at the exact same time, the mall cop that happened to be like going around the mall to make sure that nothing's like happening looks into the Hot Topic and sees basically this kid walk up to this other kid with his chest puffed out. So the mall cop outside kind of slows down walking and looks inside. And sure enough, right, Hank is like, hey, look, I'm not looking for any trouble. And the emo kid's like, yeah, that's what I thought. You're freaking scared, bro. Don't tell me otherwise. You're freaking scared. And at this point, Hank's like, dude, I'm not scared. It's not like that. I just don't want any trouble. Like, you're not worth my time. And he's like, I am worth your time. I'm worth all of your time plus some because I'm worth more than you, dude. You don't know who you're messing with. At this point, right, the emo kids was really kind of just showing his true colors and being like, I mean, kid's insecure. That's fair enough. He's trying to act all tough in front of his friends. So once again, Hank's like, he turns around and he's like, all right, man. He's like, dude, I'm just not doing this. Once again, have a good life. Hank turns around, and as Hank's turning around, the emo kid is like, in his head, he's like, I can't let this slide. So the emo kid literally raises up his hand and swings on Hank. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, go ahead and comment emo down below. I just want to see how many people made it to the end of this video, as I do appreciate you guys. Best way to support the channel, as always, is just watch a bunch of the videos. The more watch time you give to the channel, the more we get promoted in the algorithm, and I really, really do appreciate it. Let me know in the comment section what you do while watching my videos. I genuinely want to know. Just so you know, all these episodes are on Spotify. It's in the description, the first link. Please rate us 5 stars when you have a chance. If you want to submit these stories, and please do, because, that's how I make these videos, go to my Instagram or Twitter. They're both in the description, but they're also at Connor Pugs. I got a Discord server, link in description, code ConnorPugs for 10% off gamer subs. Let's get back to the story. So Hank, remember, he turns around and Hank's like, dude, I'm not going to deal with you like that. It's not worth my time. So Hank turns around and the emo kid, who's like, I can't let Hank like one up me. Like, I can't let this random kid like, kind of like alpha me in front of my emo kid friends or whatever. So as Hank turns around, the emo kid swings on him, takes his fist. The thing is, though, the emo kid's not like a trained, I don't know, fighter or boxer or something. So obviously the emo kid doesn't make contact with Hank. Instead of making contact with Hank, the emo kid nearly misses Hank, and his like right hook goes right through a rack of clothes. The emo kid was really putting his full force into this too. Because once the emo kid misses and whiffs on Hank, the emo kid flies forward into the rack of clothes. So he basically like pushes himself into a rack of clothes, fails to swing on him. The mall cop, however, did see the emo kid try and swing on Hank, so he walks in there. Hank turns around, and he sees the emo kid on the floor in a pile of clothes, and he's just so confused on what happened. And then, Hank turns around the other way to see a mall cop standing in front of him. So Hank's really confused at this moment. He's like, okay, 1 second ago, I turned away from the emo kid. And a second later, the emo kid is sitting like face first in a pile of clothes, and a mall cop is standing above me. Like, this literally makes no sense. And sure enough, the mall cop's like, hey, hold up, everyone. I got to talk to you guys. And the two emo kids, like, from the back, like, they get scared and they literally run off. They disappear into the rest of the story. It's like, hey, you get back here. But also the mall cop didn't really care that much because the two people that he really wanted to talk to were both Hank and the emo kid who swung on him. So the emo kid gets up. He's, like, kind of panting a little bit. He's like, and the mall cop's like, hey, I saw you swing on this kid. I know you didn't make contact, but you did try and swing on this kid. It's 100%. Like, what's going on here? The emo kid's like, dude, I was just defending myself. And at this point, Hank's like, that's not the case. Like this kid and I were kind of talking back and forth. He tried to pull down my pants. I made fun of him for doing that. I turned around and he tried to swing on me. At this point, right, the mall cop kind of witnessed the last 60% of this altercation. So he knows for a fact that he saw the emo kid try and pull down the pants and then have an argument. So the emo kid says, well, after I pulled down his pants, this kid tried to swing on me and I just defended myself. And the thing is, right, that was a mistake for the emo kid because the mall cop had been watching the whole thing. So the mall cop knew for a fact that that wasn't the case of what happened. So the mall cop goes on to say, like, dude, I know for a fact that's not what happened. I saw you guys kind of like bickering in the store, and I wanted to make sure that we had no like nonsense going on. Obviously, some nonsense did go on, and I watched the whole thing. I saw you try and pull down this kid's pants. He did not swing on you. I don't know what he said to you that offended you or anything, but it's very clearly that, you're the aggressor here, and I can't have that. So he's like, hey, I'm going to need you to come with me. And the emo kid's like, all right, buddy, go ahead with him. And the emo kid is like looking at Hank and kind of giving him this look of like, come on, bud, like, go ahead. He's asking for you. When in truth, the mall cop is not asking for Hank. The mall cop is asking for the emo kid. So the mall cop's like, sorry, man, you must be mistaken. I'm not asking for this guy over here, pointing to Hank. He's like, I'm asking for you. And he points at the emo kid. And the emo kid is so absolutely stunned by this revelation. He's like, at this point, the emo kid is practically speechless. The emo kid is standing there, is just like, you must have some kind of mistake or something. Like, you can't be talking about me. That's insane. Like, there's no way. Like, what do you mean? Hanks is looking at the emo kid with this bit of a smirk, and the mall cop is kind of like, come on, bud. Like, we don't want to have any trouble here. Make this nice and easy for all of us, and just come along with me. And, at this point, the emo kid is looking at Hank and kind of just giving him this look of like, this isn't over, buddy. This isn't over. And Hank is kind of just like, wow, this like a lot just went down the last 5 minutes, because this was like no longer than like 10 minutes of an altercation. And as soon as the mall cop basically drags the emo kid away, his friend comes rushing up to him, and he's like, dude, like, I just checked out the thing I was getting, and in his hand, he had this, like, skateboard thing or whatever. He's like, dude, I just saw, like, a mall cop over here. I saw some kid getting dragged out of the store. Did you happen to see what happened? And Hank just looks at his friend, and is like, did I happen to see what happened? He's like, buddy, I lived what happened. Okay, so we're going to call the subscriber for the next story Bobby. I got a little King the Hill theme going on with these names because I got Bobby and Hank. If you know, and you're cool. Anyway, so Bobby was like hanging out at home one day and one of his friends hits him up. And, Bobby, doesn't see this friend this often because they happen to be going to two different schools, even though they live relatively in the same area. They're both in high school and they're both seniors in high school. So Bobby's friend, who we're going to call Ben, actually happens to have a car at this point. And, Bobby's friend Ben hits up Bobby one day, and Bobby's just chilling at home, and he gets a text from Ben saying, hey, do you want to hang out today? And Bobby was feeling kind of lazy, so he's like, maybe, what do you want to do? His friend's like, dude, I want to go to the skate park. And Bobby, in his head, he's like, I don't know if I want to go. This is, I don't know. I don't know, man. I really don't know. And Bobby should have stayed home that day based on what was about to go down, but he didn't because he wanted to see his friend Ben, and he was like, wait, what else am I going to do today? Watch Netflix? I know for a fact by the end of the day, if I'm just sitting here watching Netflix, I'm not going to be a happy camper. So sure enough, Bobby texts him back. He's like, yeah, man, I don't got a ride, but if you can pick me up 100%. So sure enough, this friend, I don't know, an hour later, pulls up to Bobby's house and says, hey, man, get in. And, Bobby shows up to the window. He's like, hey, what's up, Ben? Haven't seen you in forever. Just so you know, I don't have a skateboard, just so you're aware. And Ben's like, dude, I got two in the back. Don't worry about that. I got you. So sure enough, Ben hops into the car with Bobby. And, they drive, or Bobby hops into the car with Ben. They drive over to the skate park, which is 15 minutes away from where Bobby lives. And they get out, and, Bobby used to skate a little bit back in the day with his friend. It's been a while, so he's not going to do any tricks or anything like that, but he's just getting along, he's just getting on the board. He's kind of riding around a bit, just getting a little bit of exercise. And mostly he's out there just to hang out with Ben because he hasn't seen Ben in a second, and they used to be really tight. So sure enough, Bobby and Ben are just chilling at the skate park. They're having a good time. They're kind of just living their life. And that's when a very specific looking group, of these emo kids. They pop out of nowhere, basically, and they just appear at the end of the skate park. So this skate park is pretty big. It's not like a massive one. It's not like where you'd have a professional skater event or something. But it's a pretty big skate park. The city definitely puts some a good amount of bread into making this. So sure enough, they're looking over and they see this group of kids. And this group of kids has a ringleader that's standing in front of the other two. And he's kind of dressed like the other, they're all dressed kind of like the other emo kids in the last story time. So I'm not going to go ahead and describe them. They're dressed a little bit differently, but it's all kind of the same, if you know what I mean. So sure enough, the kids are just standing at the end of the park. And it's really awkward because Bobby goes over to Ben. He's like, dude, see those kids? And Ben's like, yeah, I've just been staring at them. And Ben's like, dude, they've just been looking at us for the last thing. Checks his watch. He's like, dude, they just been looking at us for the last 2 minutes, bro. That's really freaking weird. And, Bobby's like, yeah, man, this is kind of weird. I don't totally know, what's the deal with all this? Do you know what's up with them? And Ben's like, dude, I don't go to this skate park. This is your skate park. And Bobby's like, yeah, I don't really skate anymore, so I don't know. Maybe this is a place they normally go to. Either way, this is kind of weird. Let's just stay on this side, and hopefully they'll stay on their side. And if they come over, hopefully they're cool. Spoiler, they're not cool. Yeah, they're the farthest thing from cool. But anyways, Bobby and Ben try and ignore these kids, as these kids literally, the thing is, these kids, they don't even have skates they don't even have a skateboard with them. And you don't need to have a skateboard to hang out at a skate park. A park is a park, and it's a cool place to just hang out with some friends. That's 100% true. However, I will say it is a little weird to show up in a group of kids or a group of a bunch of people, stand there and watch other people without saying anything to each other, without doing anything like that. I will say that itself is pretty weird. So sure enough, Bobby and Ben are just kind of standing there dude, this is really freaking weird. What's going on? And that's when they look over, and sure enough, they see the emo kids start to walk closer to them. The emo kids were just standing there for a good solid, I would say 10 minutes. And that's when the emo kids start to walk over to Bobby and Ben. And at this point, Ben turns over. He's like, dude, what is up with your neighborhood, bro? Why do you always get the weirdos? And Bobby's like, dude, it's not my fault. I don't go here this often. I don't know. And that's when the group of emo kids shows up. And there's very clearly this is going to sound weird, but an alpha one, okay. I'm not trying to use weird alpha male terms or whatever. Oh, Connor, which one's the sigma male? Shut up if you say that in the comment section unironically, dude. Actually, shut up. But anyways, sure enough, the kind of the alpha of the pack, whatever that even means in emo pack words, is hey, you two, I need a word with you. And Bobby and Ben kind of just look at each other just oh my God, what's going on here? It's just kind of strange. Ben kind of like whispers over to Bobby like, dude, we are never going back to your park ever again. And Bobby kind of just gives him this look of like, dude, I can't control this. So sure enough, the emo kid, let's just call him the alpha emo kid. No, I can't say that for much longer. The main emo kid, King the Pack or whatever, walks up to them. He's like, bro, do you not know? And Bobby and Ben kind of look at each other, and Bobby speaks up and says, no, like knows what, like no what. The emo kid laughs. He's like, oh, you don't know then. This is our turf, dude. And Bobby and Ben kind of look at each other, and Ben speaks up like, turf? Emo kid's like, yeah, man, you don't understand. This is our turf. And Bobby just means like, what does that even mean? And they're like, dude, you don't want to mess with us. And one of them like legitimately pulls out like a wand. Not like a knife or something, not like actually trying to be intimidating. Like this isn't like, oh, they think they're like actually in a gang or something. This is their turf. They pull out a wand, like a freaking Harry Potter magic wand. And the main emo kid's like, bro, my boy over here knows magic. You don't want to mess with him, dude. And so Bobby and Ben kind of look at these kids, and, Ben speaks up. Ben's a little bit more brash. Ben's a little bit more, I don't know, confident is maybe the wrong word, but I'm going to use that word than Bob. Confrontational, that's right. Ben's a bit more confrontational than Bobby is. So Bobby would have been fine literally just going somewhere else. It's not like there's not a lot of other places. I mean, there's not a lot of other places they could go, but it's not like Bobby's a big skater in the first place. He just wanted to hang out with Ben. And Ben literally goes up. He's like, dude, what are you going to do with that little magic wand? You're going to wave it around, put a spell on me? It's this freaking Harry Potter, dude. We don't care. You guys don't have turf. That's ridiculous. Like, look, we're not taking up the whole park. This park's massive. You guys chill over there. We'll do our thing over here. There won't be any trouble. The emo kid's like, dude, there's going to be trouble if you guys don't leave or at least pay respects. And, Ben at this point's like, the frick you mean pay respects? Like, what is that? Like, what do you even mean by that? And at this point, Bobby's starting to realize that Ben is kind of finding this amusing more than concerning. Bobby's more concerned by this just because they outnumber them like 4-2. And these emo kids definitely like aren't hitting the gym every day. But at the same time, like 4-2, it doesn't matter like how big you are. Like you're not taking them one-on-one. So like Bobby didn't want anything like that. Even if it's that emo kid smoke, he didn't want it in the first place. So sure enough, Bobby kind of looks at Ben and kind of gives him a look of like, hey, like, come on now. And Ben is like, no, I'm going with this. And Ben's like, all right, man, you know what? Put a spell on us, bro. Like, if you honestly, like, you know what? We're going to take the punishment. Put a spell on us. And the main emo kid looks at them and is like, dude, you don't want our smoke like that. You don't want us to, like, drop a spell on you like that, bro. You don't know our power. You don't totally get it. And Bobby is just looking at them. And Bobby's, like, kind of, like, completely freaked out at this point. Not that they're going to actually put a spell on him and, I don't know, curse him or something. Bobby's just so freaked out by everything going on that he just doesn't want anything to do with it. So Bobby is like, I don't know, man. How about we just like, we stay here and you go over there? And the emo kid's like, I'm not talking to you, little boy. Which like Bobby was like so taken aback by this. And Ben was like, you don't call my friend that. Come on, if you're such a big guy, little boy. And at this point, Ben says little boy back to them. If you're not such a big guy, little boy, put a spell on us. And he points to the guy in the back. And there's like a little emo kid in the back with like a little magic wand or something. The main emo kid says, you know what? Gentlemen, I don't want you guys to be seriously hurt. So I'm going to give you one more chance to leave the premises. Or my friend will put a spell on you. And you will be cursed so badly that you will not make it out of this park alive. We have magical powers that you simply don't understand. And Ben is looking at them. And Bobby is looking at them. And the emo kids are looking back. At this point, it's one of those classic Texas standoffs. Like, who's going to shoot first? But instead of shooting, it's either staying there or shooting your magic spells through your wand or whatever. And, Ben was like, all right, no, we're staying here. Put a spell on us. Do it. And the emo kid is like, fine, you've sealed your fate. And all of them walk away. At this point, Bobby and Ben look at each other. Bobby's like, dude, those kids are weird. Like, I have no idea what's going on. Ben is like, really is your neighborhood spawning out the most NPCs in the world, dude? Like, this is crazy. And, Bobby and Ben were probably going to go back and forth a little bit about how weird these kids were, but they were unfortunately interrupted by chanting. So they look over and they see the emo kids like holding hands, chanting, like kind of like going in a circle, like kind of like moving in a circle, holding hands, chanting like demonic tongues. At this point, Bobby's like, bro, I'm kind of freaked out. And Ben's like, dude, this is a comedy routine. Please, like, chill out. At this point, they do, like, the chanting gets louder and louder. And it's kind of weird. Like, it's really strange. It's like they definitely been rehearsing this. And Bobby admits to me that for a split second, he was thinking, like, dude, what if these kids actually have magic powers? Spoiler, they don't. They're just weird, right? And by the end of the chant, you know, one of the kids comes over. The main one grabs the wand, starts swinging it around, and starts walking over to them. He's like, one last chance, boys. I'm giving you one last chance to literally survive. I'm giving you one more chance unless you want to, if you want to leave here and see your parents again. And Bobby was just in his head like, dude, this kid's legitly weird. And Ben says, yeah, bring it on, dude. I want to see the worst you have. And Bobby was like, he admits, he was a little bit concerned just because, I don't know, just like the confidence these emo kids had was kind of startling. And the main emo kid's like, fine. Takes up his wand. He starts like saying a bunch of like random gibberish and waving his wand in a circular motion, pointing it at Bobby, right? Or at Ben, not Bobby. And Ben, kind of looks at Bobby and gives him a wink. And Bobby knows that, but Ben's about to be up to some mischief. And the kid is like, ha-da-da-da, ha-da-da-da, ha-boo! Or does like what is very clearly like the final motion. And Ben literally like opens his eyes super wide, clutches his heart, and drops to the ground and doesn't move. Bobby is like a little bit freaked out, but he also remembers that Ben just like gave him a big wink. And you hear all the emo kids, like some of them are in the back like, oh my God, it actually worked. The spell actually worked. And the main emo kid has this look on his face, like the most scared look you've ever seen. The main emo kid was terrified because for a good 30 seconds, the main emo kid actually thought that he just killed this kid from his like magic spell or whatever. So sure enough, the emo kid like drops his wand, rushes up to Ben and is like, no, the spell, it was too powerful. I should have held back. And Bobby's just looking at him. And the emo kids, the other ones, are standing like talking to each other. And they're like frantically talking to each other. They're really concerned about this. They're like, dude, do we call the cops? Do we bury the body? Like, what do we do? Like, what if our parents find out? All this kind of nonsense, right? And that's when you hear giggling. It started as giggling, but then it just evolved into laughter. And that's when Ben flips over and you can see that he's just been laughing. He couldn't hold it in any longer. And he gets up. He's like, oh my God, you fell for it. This is the funniest thing ever. He's like, guys, you're not wizards. You're just weird. Go to that side of the park. We're going to be here. And there's nothing you can do about it. And that's when I think the emo kids kind of realized that, they weren't going to scare them out of there, and they definitely were not going to fight them out of there either. So sure enough, the emo kids they don't even say anything. These kids they're kind of done with trying to scare like Bobby and Ben out of there. So they pick up their stuff, they get up, and they leave. And Bobby and Ben, they go back to doing their whatever they were doing before. But it really was just never the same after that, because like for the rest of the day, Ben would just continuously make emo kid jokes and Bobby would laugh and make them back. So in fact, the rest of the day was better than ever before. And this happened a long time ago. Like this happened like 4 or 5 years ago. And Bobby and Ben actually reunited about a year ago. And literally the only thing they did during their when they reunited was retold this story and made jokes about it the entire time. And this is probably, if you want to continue supporting the channel, please
click
watch
on the
another
video on screen right now.
Bye.
I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it.
How's it going, everyone? Today we have a story of one of the cringiest emo kids of all time. So sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're calling today's subscriber who submitted the story Brent. So this all happened when Brent was at soccer camp. And so Brent went to the soccer camp every single year. And it just happened that this year he encountered the emo kid at soccer camp. So anyways, this was just another summer of Brent going to soccer camp. His mom dropped him off, and once again, he was pretty excited to go. Unfortunately, some of the friends he made from the year before, they didn't show up this time, so he was very proactive about finding people, meeting new people, and trying to make some new friends. So anyways, in the very beginning of soccer camp, they had kind of a get to know other people type deal. And all of a sudden, right, Brent sees this girl, and she was at kind of like the girls' soccer camp. So it was kind of split up like boys' soccer camp and girls' soccer camp. However, it was all under the same umbrella of like the soccer camp program. So they would eat lunch together, do non-soccer activities, but like the morning soccer practices were kind of split up by gender like that. And so anyways, right away, Brent saw this girl, Emily, and he immediately kind of fell in love with her. Not actually, but was like, OMG, lol, she's cute. I'm going to try and hit. No, I'm just kidding. He's like, I don't know. He's like, he's gone to soccer camp. He's not trying to hit, bro. That's crazy. But anyways, right, so she's going to be an important character later on. But for the meantime, we don't need to think about her because someone much more important comes into the picture. So while Brent is thinking about like, oh my God, look at that girl over there. I got to start talking to her. That's crazy. He accidentally bumps into this guy and he turns around. This guy is like, I don't know, a little bit bigger than him, a little bit heavier than him, just like kind of a bigger guy. And he's got this like long black hair that's swooshed over. He's wearing like the standard soccer cleats, but otherwise it's like this black band heavy metal t-shirt. He's got like black painted nails. He's got like a spiky wristband on or whatever. And he turns around. He's like, yo, what did you bump into me, bro? And Brent's like, oh, my fault. Like, didn't mean to do that. And he's like, you don't think that I'm an alpha? Is that what you think? Brent's like, what? He's like, I'm an alpha male, just in case you weren't aware, which I know that you subconsciously were because, all betas instantly know when there's an alpha present. And Andrew was the guy from like 7 stories ago. Brent was like, what? He's like, bro, do you not know what beta males and alpha males are? Well, basically, beta males are like you and lame, and alpha males are strong, powerful, and dominant in the pack. And with that, like, the emo kid does a big, like, swipe of his big, long, black hair. So, like, his bangs would no longer cover his eyes. It immediately fell back in front of his face. He's like, yeah, just so you know, kid, get out of my way. And the emo kid, like, shuffles away. And this was Brent's first interaction with the emo kid. So he's like, okay. That's cool, man. Like, okay. See you around, buddy. Bye-bye. So anyways, let's fast forward a little bit. After soccer practice in the morning, Brent was actually one of the better kids there. He was pretty good at soccer. They had lunch, and in the afternoon, they had activities such as like this, like, I don't know, like tag, capture the flag, all kind of like random camp activities. And today was capture the flag, and Brent happened to be on the same team as Emily. So immediately he goes over there. He's like, hey, how's it going? Like, my name is Brent. Emily's like, hey, like, my name's Emily. Nice to meet you. And Brent and Emily immediately hit it off. They're having a good time. They're talking with each other. They're enjoying each other's company. You simply love to see it. And like from very far away, Brent catches the eye of the emo kid who's on the other team and is just staring him down for some reason. Brent doesn't really think much of it, and then he goes back to talking to Emily. So they're playing capture the flag right now, and Brent, runs over to the other side, gets the flag, right, and starts running back to his side. If you don't know capture the flag, there's like this little penny on both sides or like a little piece of cloth or something. And while you're on the opponent's side, if they tag you, you're in jail. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to run over there, grab their flag, and run back to your side without being tagged. However, there was a stipulation that it had to be a tag. This isn't tackling. You can't push someone. You can't like punch them or anything. You have to tag them if they're on your side. So, Brent is running over there. Sorry, I have a list of names in front of me and from other stories. Brent is running over there. He grabs the enemy team's flag and is running back to his side. And he's really close when he just like immediately slams into the ground. And that's when he realizes that there's a big guy on top of him. And that's when he realizes that the emo kid tackled him. So the emo kid's like, nice try, buddy. Next time, try not to fight the alpha males. And then camp counselor comes over and says, hey, we said no tackling. you're on the sidelines, points to the emo kid, he's disqualified or whatever, has to sit on the sidelines. Ooh, so alpha, man. But anyways, right, so the penny's returned, but also Brent isn't in, jail. He goes back to the other side, and the emo kid has to sit out for the rest of Capture the Flag, and Brent continues to talk to Emily, and the entire time, the emo kid is just, looking over, and he's all angrily staring at Brent. So Brent is now his official enemy. Brent kind of just assumed that they were enemies because of when he bumped into him and also when he got him disqualified, which, did Brent really get him disqualified, or was it because he's an idiot and jumped on him? That's why he got disqualified? Who knows, man? But there was another reason why the emo kid hated Brent. There was another reason that Brent did not realize at the moment, but was very, very, very potent, and is going to be very, very important for later on in the story. I'm gonna give you guys a hint. It starts with an E and ends with a Emily. Did you guys get it? Starts with an E and ends with a Emily. Emily? I'm just going to tell you, yeah, it is Emily, the girl. So emo kid likes her. Anyways, so Brent and Emily talk for the rest of that Capture the Flag game. The entire time the emo kid is staring Brent down. Brent just simply assumes, well, this kid hates me for that reason only. But let me just say that the next week of soccer camp was the craziest week that Brent has ever had. So anyways, right, his mom picks him up. He goes back home. His mom's like, hey, how was the first day? And Brent says, oh, I met this really weird kid who tackled me. And she's like, oh my God, are you okay? He's like, yeah, actually, I have barely any scrapes on me even. But he seems to not like me, so I'll keep you updated on that. So Brent is dropped off the next day, and he walks over there. And that's when the emo kid, is just staring him down. And, Brent is kind of walking over because there's a little bit of a 5, 10, 15-minute period where the kids are just standing around talking with each other, waiting for them all to be dropped off. And then the soccer camp officials or camp counselors would then split them up into groups, do soccer drills, play games, whatever, standard kind of affair. And he's just kind of waiting around. And that's when the emo kid comes up to him and says, so you're challenging my authority as the alpha man. And Brent is kind of just like, what? He's like, I'll say it again, just in case your little beta ears couldn't hear me. So you're challenging my authority that I am the alpha male of the pack. If we were wolves, which we kind of are, and Brent was like, what? If we were wolves, as we kind of are, as I said, I would be the alpha male, alpha wolf. And you would be the beta wolf, and I would be banging your wife while you watch little cuck beta wolf. Whoa. And Brent is looking at this kid, and this kid is like, no offense, but this kid is the opposite of what a stereotypical alpha male would look like, right? One of those red pit alpha males. It just looks the complete opposite of that. But anyways, Brent's not gonna get into he's not gonna rebuttal this kid because what is there to rebuttal? Everything, man. This kid has no argument. But anyways, Brent's like, okay, and the emo kid's like, well, you say okay, but remember yesterday when you got me kicked out of the game, which you obviously tipped off the ref? And Brent's like, bro, you tackled me. It's very clearly stated in the rule books that you're not allowed to tackle anyone. How is this on me? He's like, dude, it was so clearly on you because the ref understood that I was the alpha male and I was simply asserting my dominance, bro. And, Brent's just like, dude, the frick are you talking about, dude? I paid him off with what? The $5 allowance I get a week? With what? My used smelly, stinky socks? What do I have? And he's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe he took his daughter on a date because his daughter's so ugly she'd never get a date. Oh. And Brent's like, was that a diss? Does he even have a daughter? He's 20, bro. What? And the emo kid's like, anyways, I just wanted to let you know that I'm the alpha man. You're the beta man. I will do your wife when you have one. And scene. And the emo kid walks away. And Brent at this point is like, what? Why? Why is this my life? Anyway, so skip forward to the soccer practice. They're put into groups, and the emo kid was in Group B earlier, so they basically split them up into Group A and Group B. So the Group A is the better players, and Group B is the I'm just kidding. The players who are newer to soccer. And the emo kid apparently was on the cusp of Group A. Was at the very top of Group B, and because his performance was good enough, he was actually moved up to Group A. So now
Brent, instead of having a morning to himself to focus on soccer, now had to deal with the emo kid being, thrown into the mix here. So anyways, they're doing some drills with the soccer ball, and they're kind of like kicking them around cones. You had to kind of keep control of the ball while you were running. And the emo kid, like they said, okay, line up into 3 groups. And the emo kid immediately ran behind Brent. And Brent kind of looks behind him. He's like, what? And the emo kid said, nothing, Brent. Just letting you know that I'm the alpha male here. And Brent's like, okay, fine. Let's just do the drill. So the ref blows the whistle. Brent starts kicking the ball and moving with it. And the emo kid immediately runs up behind him and trips him. He's like, oh, sorry. And the ref's like, hey. And the emo kid's like, it was an accident, I swear. And the ref's like, all right, be careful. And Brent is starting to get really angry because, if you get an injury in soccer, especially if you get a foot injury, he could be out for the entire week. I mean, this is one of his favorite camps that he has every single summer. He loves going to it. It's one of his favorite things to do. And this emo kid, for the second time in the last 24 hours, has, has gotten really close to causing him a pretty big injury. He could have jumped, he jumped on him yesterday. He ran behind him, knocking him over. What if he twisted an ankle? What if he, fractured something in his leg? It's not that hard, especially when you got a big old kid jumping on top of you every 5 minutes. It's difficult. It's not that difficult, man. So anyways, Brent, for the next activity, waits to get into line before the emo kid does, because he doesn't want to be in the same line as the emo kid. But it turns out that everyone else lines up, and it's literally just Brent and the emo kid waiting for each other to move, because the Brent wants to go where the emo kid doesn't go, and the emo kid wants to go where Brent goes. And the refs not the refs, but the soccer coaches are like, come on, kind of guys, get into line. And Brent's like, okay. And he sprints to the end of the line, and then the emo kid sprints to the back of that line. And the coach is like, emo kid, says his actual name, can you go to another line? That line's too long. And the emo kid's like, okay, moves over one line. And when the coach turns his head, the emo kid literally runs back into the line with Brent again. So when the coach turns around, he's like, wait, emo kid, I said, could you go to that line? And he's like, fine. Emo kid eventually goes to that line, actually does that. So for the rest of the soccer practice, the emo kid tried to bump into Brent, tried to make his life difficult, basically was just being a big butt the entire time. But thankfully, that nothing really happened. He didn't bump into Brent successfully again. In fact, the emo kid, most of the time when he tried to bump into Brent would do some very slick soccer move, kind of break his ankles, not literally, but you know what I mean. And the emo kid would fall flat on his face because he kind of tried to run into Brent, and then Brent sidestepped him and completely swerved out of his way. Anyways, though, things start to get a little bit more interesting because throughout the next day, Brent and Emily are talking it up. It's kind of the known thing for the camp that those two were kind of the unofficial soccer camp couple. I don't know if your camps had stuff like that, but this was true for the soccer camp. And word was that the two of them, they were gonna kiss soon. Oh my God, guys, isn't that 12th base or something? So sure enough, right, one of these days, so a day later, Emily and Brent are just sitting with each other at lunch. They're kind of on a quote unquote date or whatever. And that's when a girl comes over and sits next to them. And Emily's like, oh, this is my friend Robin. And Robin's like, hey guys, I just want to let you know, Emily, that the kid over there, and points to the emo kid, is planning to ask you out soon. And Emily's like, dude, I don't know that kid. I've never spoken to him in my life. And Brent's like, oh my God, I know exactly who that kid is. Emily's like, what? And Brent basically tells her the story that I told you guys for the last 13 minutes. And she's like, oh my God, he's the worst. And Brent's like, well, that would explain why he really hates me too, because not just that I embarrassed him, but I've been hanging out with you the entire time. And, he probably knows that we've been talking a lot. And Emily laughs a little bit. And this is when Robin says, dude, I'm serious. This kid is going to come over and ask you out within the next 24 hours. He's going to do it publicly. It's going to be really embarrassing. Everyone's told him not to do it, but he's in his own world. You got to let him down nicely though. And Brent was like, no mercy. Make him suffer. Emily's like, Brent, I'm not going to make him suffer. I don't know this kid. Brent's like, make him suffer. Emily's like, shh. Okay, I'm going to be nice. When he comes over, I'm going to be firm, I'm going to be direct, but I'm going to be nice about it, I'm going to be cordial, and life is going to go back to what it was before. So sure enough, right, Brent now realizes that the emo kid has a massive crush on Emily. And Brent also starts to think about it. When Emily says no to him, and when she starts really, hanging out with me more, and when word gets around that we kiss, because we totally are, this is in Brent's head, right? He's gonna actually, ramp up the craziness even more than it already is. I think I'm screwed, boys. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment emo down below. I'm going to heart as many comments as I can that say that. That is the secret word of the day. And also, if you want to support the channel and help boost me back into the algorithm, all you got to do is at some point, maybe after this video, maybe later, sit down and watch a bunch of my videos in a row, maybe while you're playing video games or drawing or cleaning your room, or maybe to help you go to sleep. I take that as a compliment now. I understand it. Leave in the comment section down below how you're helping boost the channel. I will heart it, I will say thank you, and I'll even shout some people out, like the person on screen right now. Thank you to this person on screen and all of you guys for all the support recently. It's really helped boost the channel. We're growing again. You'll love to see it. Let's get back to the story. So anyways, flash forward to that night, or not that night, but that afternoon. Remember when this is the mixed gender, just fun, more camp activities, they're playing dodgeball. And sure enough, the emo kid and Brent actually happen to be on the same team this time. So emo kid and Brent, they're picking up the dodgeballs, they're throwing them, they're trying to avoid being hit by the dodgeballs. And the emo kid walks over and is like, "Sup, bro?" And Brent's like, "What?" Emo kid's like, "I just want to let you know that, I know that you and Emily, or you have been trying to flirt with Emily, and it's been failing horribly for my sources, at least that's what my sources said. And I just want to let you know that, I let you have your fun. I let you play like the little beta little lamb you are. But I'm actually going to come in and, as the alpha male, assert my dominance and claim what is mine. Emily shall be my girlfriend by the end of tomorrow. Mark my words, and I will watch as little tears roll down your face because you're so sad that I took your girl. Oh, little Brent, I'm so sorry." Brent's like, "Dude, she's not gonna, I've talked to her, she's gonna say no. Don't do it. I hate you, but I know for a fact that you're gonna get rejected in front of everyone." The emo kid's like, "Nice try, little boy. I know for a fact that my testosterone is 10 trillion and yours is 0. So based on that alone, plus a billion other factors, such as my manliness, my alpha maleness, my swag, overall levels, and a billion more things. She will obviously say yes to me. And even if you two are fake dating, she'll break up with you immediately to say yes to me. I just know some things that you don't know, Brent. Get over it." So the emo kid walks away. And Brent's like, "Well, my conscience is clear because I tried to warn the kid not to do it. I tried to warn the kid, right? I'm not a bad guy. I told him not to do it. I told him. I said, I even gave him the benefit of the doubt. I said, I don't like you, but I want to help you here. He didn't listen to me. It's not my fault, whatever happens tomorrow." Next day rolls around. At soccer practice, the emo kid for the entire morning is like, Brent, better spend the last moments with Emily as you can because she's about to be my girlfriend. Oh, and Brent's like, "Dude, shut up, dude." He's like, "Oh my God, am I getting to you, man? Am I getting to you, man? Oh man, it was so easy to break your thin, weak beta skin. Oh my God, my words are hurting you so much. I'm gonna lick up your little salty tears. They're so tasty and so good." And Brent's like, "Shut up, bro. You're gonna get embarrassed. I can't wait for the moment. She better go hard." Anyways, flash forward to lunch. The moment. So anyways, Brent is sitting with Emily, and Emily's like, "Dude, the emo kid, I can't see him anywhere." And Brent's like, "Dude, he's going to ask you out. It's happening. Get over it. It's going to happen any second." She's like, he's going to do it the next day, which means probably now in front of everyone. And, Brent's like, that's what he said he would do. And Brent was like, "Oh my God, don't turn around." Because Brent was looking, and the emo kid was walking over. And what was he walking over with? He was walking over with a boom box. You already know where this is going. And Brent's like, "You know what?
brace yourself. Try and have an out-of-body experience right now so you don't have to deal with what's about to happen. This is about to be bad, Emily. I'm so sorry. And Emily's like, oh my God, oh my God. And that's when you start to hear music. It's the emo kid's personal band. So it's like this heavy metal rock band. So just imagine some like heavy metal rock going in the background. And the lyrics are, Emily, Emily, why do you hang with losers like Brent? Emily, please love me. Yeah. And it's just kind of like more stuff like that in the background. And the emo kid is like rocking out by himself with an air guitar while this is all going on. It is the worst moment of Brent's life because the secondhand embarrassment is so strong, he's basically getting firsthand embarrassment from the whole thing. Everyone has stopped eating and turned around, including the camp counselors. They're just watching this kid bounce around with an air guitar with his like super long black bangs flying around all around the place as this boombox plays one of the crappiest songs they've ever heard, terribly mixed, the worst lyrics, basically saying that Brent sucks and that she should be in love with him, and he's bouncing around, and then after 5 whole excruciating minutes, and everyone at this point is laughing and trying to hold themselves together, after 5 whole long excruciating minutes of the worst music ever and some like really bad air guitar and bouncing around, the song stops and the emo kid says, Emily, it is clear who you shall choose. What is your verdict? And Emily's like, I'm sorry, I don't know you. I'm not going out with you. Emo kid's like, that's hilarious. What's your actual verdict? Emily's like, dude, I don't know you. He's like, dude, that's hilarious. What's your actual verdict? And Brent's like, all right, man, that's enough. Let's concede while we're behind. The emo kid looks at Brent and says, this isn't over, man. And he walks away with his boombox. And Brent's like, why did he say that to me? I didn't dump him. And Emily's like, dude, that was worse than I could have ever imagined. And right, so Robin, the friend who warned them, came over again and said, look, I should have warned you about that. I didn't think it was real. I didn't even think that was actually going to happen. I was told earlier this morning and I laughed. I'm so sorry. I should take anything that you hear about this kid seriously from this point on because, oh my God. And Emily's like, wait. Oh no, we still have an activity tonight, this afternoon. And Brent's like, oh my God, he said this isn't over. And sure enough, it was far from over. So they get to the activity that afternoon. So it was probably the worst possible activity that it could have been because it was small groups of charades. They kind of ran out. They had something else planned, but since it started to rain, they had to go inside. So they're like, all right, we're going to break you off into small groups of 3. And we're going to have you play charades with each other. And at this point, they're like, okay, what are the odds? Brent's like, what are the odds that I'm put with? And the person says, Brent, Emily, and emo kid. And Brent's like, you got to be joking, man. You got to be joking. Apparently, right, Robin tells him this, later on, once the camp is over. Apparently, because she was talking with one of the camp counselors about everything that went down. The camp counselor said that, once, it started to rain, the emo kid went up to them and asked what they were doing. Camp counselor said, oh, we're doing small groups of charades. And the emo kid requested that his 2 best friends and him were put together in a group. So it wasn't just random, it was the emo kid. But Brent didn't know that at the time. So Brent looks at Emily, and Emily looks at Brent. And they're both basically just like, oh boy. And they both look at the emo kid, who has a massive smile on his face. So all 3 of them go away to a corner. And the emo kid's like, Emily, I might have came on too strong. And she's like, well, that's an understatement. But he's like, I will show you the truth. Brent, I challenge you to an alpha battle. Brent's just like, what's an alpha battle? Ha! You're such a beta for not knowing what an alpha battle is. Beta. He's like, an alpha battle will be proof that I am alpha and you are a weak beta. And then Emily will choose me. And Emily's like, I'm not. And he's like, wait, your heart will tell you otherwise after the alpha battle. Emily's like, okay, I'm still not going to. She's like, God, stop, silence, woman. And Brent was like, whoa, chill out, dude. He's like, you silence too? We're having an alpha battle right now. So, right, this just kind of looks like they're doing really weird charades from afar, but the emo kid is like, all right, let's form our best wolf poses. Brent's like, what? He said, form your best wolf poses, now! And
Emo kid, Brent's like, all right. Ooh, emo kid's like, that is the worst wolf pose I've ever seen. You were definitely not part wolf like I am. And the emo kid does this really weird pose. He's like, oh my god, I'm wolfing so hard right now. This is the most emo thing. I mean, the most the most alpha thing I've ever done. Oh my god. At this point, Emily's like, guys, you are both embarrassing yourselves. Emo kid, it's like, no, you will see that I'm the most alpha. I swear. Emo kid's like, all right, let's do it. Wrestle me. And, you know, Brent's like, what? Emo kid jumps on top of him, just tackles him to the ground. Because he's like 20 pounds heavier, right? And a little bit taller. And Brent was completely taken off guard. He's like, bro, stop. What are you doing? And the emo kid's like, I'm out alphaing you. And that's when the camp counselor comes over and says, all right, guys, break it up. Tears the two of them apart. He's like, all right, so we're only doing this for 20 more minutes, but it looks like you two can't keep off of each other, so I'm going to be joining your group. Imagine how awkward this is. It is Emily, Brent, the emo kid, and a random camp counselor. So they do normal charades, right? And the entire time, the emo kid is like sneaking in punches to Brent's arm. He's like, ow. And when the camp counselor looks up, the emo kid puts his arms behind his back. And the emo kid's like, this isn't over, man. And then the emo kid walks over to Emily. He's like, tss, tss, Emily, tss. Emily's like, what? Do you think I'm more alpha? Shut up, kid. Emo kid's like, no. Okay, I'll just be direct. Do you want to go out with me? No! And the camp counselor was like, guys, silence while I'm doing charades. And Emily's like, dude, I don't want to go out with you. How many times do I need to tell you this? Emo kid's like, but I'm definitely more alpha. She's like, that's not a real thing. So the next day rolls around. It's Thursday. And that afternoon, there's no real activity. It's just known as like the soccer dance or whatever. And during the soccer dance, there's one coveted slow song where anyone who has feelings for each other might ask for like a slow song or something. And sure enough, let's just jump to the dance because the emo kid is like being a jerk to Brent all day, but that's not anything new. And sure enough, it is the dance. And they're putting on normal songs. And Emily and Robin and Brent are all together like, dude. And Robin's like, dude, the emo kid is definitely going to try and get that slow song with you. Like, Brent, you got to swoop in right away. Because at this point, Brent and Emily were, like, unofficially a thing. They're only at camp for a week, so they're not going to make, like, a long-term relationship. Let's have kids, baby. Okay, you know what I mean. But sure enough, the slow song comes on. And Brent's like, oh my God. And Emily's like, quickly. And you can see the emo kid sprinting from the other side of the room. So Emily and Brent quickly like get together in the slow song, kind of like whatever. And Emily's standing there and she feels Brent being ripped off of him. And the emo kid grabs Brent, rips him off Emily and tackles him on the ground. And this is what the camp counselors are like, oh, okay, foul play. They go in, they grab the emo kid and they like run it, like they take him off. They're like, all right, buddy, this is like your third strike and you are out. So they call up the parents of the emo kid. They say, your son can't come tomorrow. He's like fighting this one kid again and again and he won't stop. And so sure enough, the emo kid was picked up, taken away, and Brent and Emily finished off with the slow song together. The next day rolls around. It is Friday. It is only a half day where basically the parents come and watch a little like soccer presentation that all the kids have done. And by the end of it, right, most people are packing up. Brent and Emily are gone. And you remember the friend Robin from the beginning? One of the camp counselors and Robin were like friends or whatever, or like friendly. And the camp counselor's like, do you happen to know about that like emo looking kid? Like, do you happen to know what was up with him? And Robin's like, do I have a story?
Click on the video on screen right now.
you?
I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it.
Leave a like on this video and I'll actually give you nothing at all. No, but what's up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new story. And just imagine you're chilling with your girlfriend. Life is awesome. You stare into her eyes lovingly, and then all of a sudden this emo kid walks in and says that you must fight him to the death to decide who gets your girlfriend. And at that moment, you seriously just sit there and question your life choices. That is the story I'll be telling today. So sit back, relax, subscribe if you're new, and let's just jump right into this story. So we're going to call a subscriber who submitted the story James. So anyways, there was a kid in James's class who we're going to call the emo kid. He kept to himself. He wore crazy makeup and the dark clothing and whatever. And honestly, it doesn't really matter what you wear. But he was also extremely melodramatic. Like, he would come in and he'd be like,
Society doesn't understand me. No one gets me. I'll never fit in.
He was kind of like one of those kids that kind of just like would say this stuff and then would be like, why do I not have friends? I'm just a melodramatic freak all the time, which, I mean, I was pretty weird in middle school, so like I can't really speak. But then again, hey man. Anyways, so there's also a girl in, I don't know, I'll just call her like, we'll just call her Kate, right? It's name of my friend back home. So anyways, James and the emo kid, unfortunately, had to cross paths because they both had a thing for this girl. And this Friday, right? So this story all starts like this weekend, or not this weekend, we'll say starts on Monday. And this Friday, remember, not actually this Friday, I mean this Friday in the story, was going to be the school dance. And the whole thing was like whoever got the slow dance with this girl was basically going to like, so the thing at James's school is if you slow danced with a girl, you were basically dating her at this point. You guys were practically in love at that point. So it was a pretty big deal who was going to get the slow dance. And it was the emo kid versus James. And this became very public knowledge. Like the emo kid was telling everyone that he was going to 100% get the slow dance. And people kind of knew James because James was more popular. He wasn't like, I don't know, some like really annoying popular person. He was just like a cool guy that everyone liked. I mean, at least according to James, who submitted this story. So who really knows? But we'll go with it, right? So everyone kind of knew that both the emo kid and James were both fighting for this girl, Kate. And Kate made it pretty clear that, you know, she was not going to say yes to the emo kid. Like, sorry, unlucky. Life just works out like that. But she was considering saying yes to James. She was kind of just keeping... the truth was that she was going to say yes to James if he asked. However, she just wanted to keep him kind of like on his toes and questioning or whatever, right? So, yeah, throughout that whole week, the emo kid and James, they didn't really, like, they weren't, like, in a fight with each other, but it was kind of like, they were kind of like rivals in a sense, even though they never had any direct confrontation. And let's just skip ahead to that Friday. It was the day of the school dance. It was emo kid versus James. So anyways, at this point, you know, the emo kid is like, you know, he's kind of like, he's standing in the corner at the dance, right? Look, I was pretty awkward in high school and middle school when it came to those big dances. But to be fair, everyone else was as well. But the emo kid was kind of taking it to a whole different level. He literally was like slouched in the corner of the room. His like long black hair kind of like down. Almost like, you know, that scene from The Ring with that like the girl who comes out of the TV. He was kind of looking like that chick for a second. So he was definitely not helping himself out in this situation. And at this point, James and his boys were kind of standing like together, whatever. They were dancing to, I don't know. I don't freaking know what they play at high school dances. Maybe some Whip Nene by Silento. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a middle school dance, bro. I don't know how this works. But anyways, they're kind of waiting for the slow song to come on. Maybe some, I don't know, some like song by Adele or something like that. Like dude, I always try and like say lines from songs during these stories and I just blank every single time. But anyways, yeah, so they're all kind of waiting around there, and it was, eventually, the slow dance song came on. And remember, you might be thinking, oh man, who cares? It's just like a slow song. No. What you have to understand is the slow song meant everything to these kids. Like, the slow song, basically, if you had a slow song with some girl, because remember, they were in middle school. This was like 7th, 8th grade. So probably the farthest you ever went with a girl was, like, slow dancing, or maybe holding her hand, if you were, like, crazy. Because, you know... If you hold a girl's hand for too long, there is a chance you get her pregnant. So definitely not misinformation from the Connor Pugs channel. But anyways, slow dance was a really big deal. And all of a sudden, the song comes on. And the thing was, right, the emo kid was too busy kind of like sulking about society in the corner of the room to react quick enough. So James was like, all right, bro, like that guy's playing himself. I'm going to go in. So James very quickly goes in. And boom, he gets there, goes up. He's like, hey, like, Kate, like, can I have this dance? And she very happily says yes. Because she said, like, oh, I don't know if I'll say yes. She knew. She was bluffing the whole time. And James kind of felt pretty confident about it. And even though she said, I don't know, he was pretty confident because her friends were like, yeah, dude, she's totally bluffing. Like, I hate to expose my friend like that, but she definitely has a thing for you. You're chilling. You're in the green. So anyways, James goes in. He feels pretty good about the whole thing. But let me just say that the emo kid eventually looks up and then he sees this. And the emo kid is not having it. So he does something pretty insane. So strap in and definitely prepare for the cringe. If you have your cringe seatbelt unbuckled, I'm actually going to fine you for your own safety. So yeah, go ahead and buckle that cringe seatbelt, because there was like a DJ station and there was like a guy who was like DJing, quote unquote, and there was like a microphone. So like the DJ could say like, hey, like 20 minutes till the dance is done, or get ready for this hype song or whatever. And other than that, he was really just a Spotify playlist. He just edited the Spotify playlist, right? However, the DJ let the Spotify playlist run on autoplay or whatever, and he went to the bathroom. So the emo kid ran up to like the spot or whatever. He grabs the microphone. He stops the music. First of all, he goes up to the Spotify, clicks pause on the music, and screams into the microphone, "Wait!" And everybody turns around. Everybody turns around and they look at this kid. And they're all kind of like looking at this emo kid who's standing at the front of the room with like the microphone. He picks it up. He's like, "Kate, no!" So at this point, everyone's kind of looking at this kid like, oh my God. Because they all knew that like he wanted to have the dance with Kate, but like James obviously got it. So they were like, that's tough, man. Like life sometimes doesn't work out the way you want it to. Like that's just unfortunate how that goes. However, he goes up there and he's like, he goes in the microphone, like he says, "Wait!" And everyone turns around. The music is off. He's like, "Kate, may I have this dance?" And everyone's so confused because, first of all, he turned off the slow song in the middle of the song. And also, she was already dancing with someone. And instead of just going up to her, he makes a massive scene in front of everyone, grabbing the microphone and screaming into it, saying like, "Will you have this dance?" And the thing is, right, it's caused enough commotion that the guy, like the DJ that was hired, ran back. Because I think he was supposed to be there the whole time, but he needed to like rip a piss or something, so he needed to go. And he runs back over. He's like, "Give that back to me." He like snatches it out of the emo kid's hand. He's like, sorry for the interruption, guys." Turns the music back on, like starts like, not cursing out this kid, he's a middle schooler, but being like, "Dude, what do you think you're doing? You can't just like come up here and take this stuff. Like, if you do this again, I'm going to tell your teachers and you'll be in big trouble." Or, I don't know how much trouble a hired DJ can get you in, but, the emo kid returns to his corner and literally just sits down, just slumps into the corner of the room, which James felt kind of bad. He felt a little bit bad because, like, James has definitely been in that position. I say that very kind of liberally because James has not actually been in a position where he grabs the microphone at the school dance, stops the music, and asks the girl out unsuccessfully. He hasn't specifically been there, but he's definitely been in a situation where it just hasn't gone his way. So he feels bad, man. Feels bad, man. You hate to see it. But anyways, James like continued on with the slow. He's not going to stop his life because this kid has an unlucky moment. Like, that's tough. So, while I will say there was kind of an awkward moment because while, like, James is, like, slow dancing with Kate, he kind of, like, turns around, like, they kind of, like, turn around so James is facing the emo kid, and he just looks up, and the emo kid is staring at him with, like, the creepiest, most stalkerish, most scariest stare he's ever seen, because the emo kid is slumped over like the girl from The Ring, right, and is just, like, staring right at him. His, like, long black hair, like, covering most of his face besides his eyes, and he's like slumped over too, like kind of like crouching over like an old guy with a cane or something, but without a cane. And James is like, "Hey, do you mind if we turn like 45 degrees this way or 90 degrees this way?" Thank you, that's much better. So he doesn't have to see him anymore. Or actually, let's do a whole 180. He didn't ask for a 180 because he didn't want like Kate to be making eye contact with him either. But yeah, so that was a bit of a tough situation. However, you might be thinking, well, at this point, reasonably, the emo kid must have realized that this just wasn't his day, and he must have just, like, given up, which he's already embarrassed himself. Like, he probably gave up after this point. And while that would be pretty fair for you to believe, that was unfortunately that was just not what happened, because the emo kid would continue. Let me just say that the emo kid thought that if he had a sword fight with James, that he would be able to win the honor of his lady. I'm not even kidding you. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment emo down below. That'll be the secret word of the day. I will try and heart as many of those comments as I possibly can. And also, if you want to support the channel, the best possible thing you can do is just watch this video throughout the entirety of this video. And then afterwards, if you could watch some of my old videos, that helps more than you can ever imagine. Please go in the comment section and tell me how many of my old videos you've watched today or this week. I'll heart it and say thank you because it helps me out more than you can ever imagine. Anyways, let's get back to the story because the emo kid is not done. In fact, he is far from being done. So what happened after the school dance? Like over the weekend, James actually met up with Kate. They went to like go get dinner together. And that's when they officially started dating, whatever that means in 8th grade, which means, oh my God, they're going to sit together at lunch. Oh my God, dude, that's crazy, right? But anyway, so James officially starts dating this girl. Word gets around really quickly. And eventually the emo kid, I'm pretty sure at this point the emo kid would have known, but by his next actions, it's not super clear. So that Monday is the first kind of like lunch day that Kate and what's his name, James, are going to be having their first real at-school lunch date, which is a pretty big deal for the 8th graders there. Obviously, it's not that big of a deal in general, but hey, man, let them have their fun. And so, yeah, he sits down, like he finds Kate, they sit down, and they're at a table by themselves. And like people are looking over and talking and be like, ooh, someone's dating, whatever, right? And however, James, you know, Kate is facing away from the door, but James is facing the door. And James sees the door open up and he sees the emo kid walk in. And James is like, this is tough. Because James feels bad. He legitimately feels bad because, I mean, if the roles were reversed, he would feel bad like seeing the girl that he really liked a week ago sitting with the guy who was low-key his like enemy rival on a date. Like that would be tough to see. And James started to feel a little bit worried when the emo kid starts to approach him, right? Starts to approach him. And yeah, so the emo kid walks up to their table. And at this point, Kate also realizes that someone's walking up, so she turns around. And the emo kid walks up and doesn't look at James. He's not paying any attention to James. He's actually acting as if James doesn't even exist at this point. The emo kid turns to the girl, Kate. I forgot her name for a second. He says, Kate, I've been wanting to ask this for a while, but since we've become so close in the last couple weeks, which they have never spoken before, but that is beyond the point. At this point, that is beyond the point. He's like, I was wondering if you would like to go on a date with me, if you would like to start dating. And James is like, oh, no, he doesn't know. How does he not know? Because James is like, everybody knows. Everybody told everybody, but I guess everybody didn't tell the emo kid. Of course they didn't. And Kate at this point is like, oh, well, I'm very flattered. And the emo kid's like, well, if you're flattered, then you should say yes, correct? And at this point, she's like, oh, well, you see, it's actually not great timing because I'm actually currently in a relationship. And the emo kid's like, what? How? With who? And James is like, oh my God, this is so awkward. He doesn't know. So James has kind of assumed that the emo kid didn't think anything of the fact that James got like the dance with her, which in all reality, the emo kid was kind of the one who had the most common sense in that situation because just because someone dances with a girl once doesn't mean anything, right? But at this middle school, if you got the slow dance, you were basically in. You were locked in at this point is what I'm trying to say. So Kate has to go on to awkwardly explain to the emo kid that, well, the guy that she's sitting at right now on the lunch date with happens to be the guy that she's dating. And the emo kid turns to James, looks at him, looks him down and up, like does like the elevator look when he looks at like the top of his head, looks all the way down, then looks all the way up, turns back to Kate and is like, really, dude? You decided to date this guy when you could have dated me? He's like, bruh. And he just kind of like storms out of there. And James looks at Kate and he's like, dude, how did that kid not know that we're dating at this point? Like, I swear to God, all your friends told everybody. Like, and Kate's like, dude, my friends didn't tell everyone. And James is like, if you ask anyone at the school, besides the emo kid, apparently, they will know. And Kate's like, yeah, okay, my friends do talk a lot. And they're like, well, that was pretty awkward. Hopefully nothing else happens again. You might be thinking at this point, Connor, the emo kid must stop. There's no way he continues on. There's not a chance that he continues, right? Well. I got some news for you guys. He does continue, and it's bad. Because you might be thinking that, oh, well, the emo kid stormed off and he was done. No. About 20 minutes later, when there's only like 10 minutes left to lunch, James sees the doors open up again. And he's like, you gotta be kidding me, dude. Because the emo kid walks through. But this time, he is like stomping towards James super angrily. He runs up to the table practically, looks at James, looks him in the eye, and says, it's not over between us. It is far from over between us. And is like taking his little finger and like pointing at James. And James is like, okay, nice. Like, I like, we do not care. Like, I don't know what else to say at this point. Like, okay, cool, nice. Like, okay, what do you want me to say? And the emo kid after that is like, you better watch yourself. It's about to get bad. He like storms out of there. And, you know, at this point, James is like, okay, well, I guess that answers my question. So the next day at lunch is where things get really, really, really crazy. So he's sitting there with Kate on his second date. James is enjoying himself. He's having a good time with Kate. They're enjoying each other's presence. They're doing well. I mean, they're kind of clicking, so things might continue on, right? And that's when the emo kid walks in, and he's carrying like two sticks, like two pretty good sized sticks that he probably found in the backyard of the school. So in the backyard of the school, there's like a mini forest, nothing too crazy, but there's like a pretty big forest back there. And the emo kid must have gone back there and like found two decent sized sticks. He walks into the cafeteria with one stick in one hand and one stick in the other, and James is just looking at him. And he's like, he kind of says like to Kate, he's like, oh, okay, we got trouble. Kate turns around, looks at it, and it's just like, turns back around and is like, what? And James is like, yeah, I have no idea what's happening, but I guess we're about to see. So the emo kid walks up to the table, like kind of like waddles his way up. And he's like, you. And he like hands the stick to James. And James is like, like, I need a little explanation. What do you want me to do with this? Like, it's not super clear. The emo kid's like, you and I will have a sword battle, and whoever wins the sword battle will have the will win the honor of your lady, and will. At this point, like Kate's like, what? And James is like, dude, what are you saying? He's like, fight me to the death. The winner gets your girl. And James is like, no. And the emo kid's like, oh, so you're scared of me then? You know that you're gonna lose, and that's why you don't want to do it. And James is like, well, I'm not convinced I'm going to lose. I mean, I'm not an expert at random stick fighting or whatever, but at the same time, why would I want to even engage? Like, why would I even want to do it? And the emo kid's like, well, I mean, for the sake of your honor, bro, like, do you really want to be known as the guy who chickened out because he's a chicken? And James is like, well, I mean, I don't really care, but I also don't want to be known as the guy who went on, who during the dance last Friday grabbed the DJ's microphone and like stopped the music to like ask out a girl who was very clearly in the middle of dancing with someone else, and then come into school the next day super angry with a bunch of sticks and try and like fight some guy to get the girl that already obviously said no to him twice. At this point, the emo kid's like, so what you're saying is that you're too scared to fight me, and because you know you'll lose. And James is like, dude, we're going in circles right now. I'm not fighting you. I'm not having a sword fight to the death. Like, okay, I'm just not doing that. At this point, the emo kid's like, fine. Well, you're about to see me in my final form, where I am the most powerful. And James is like, okay. Like, word. And then the emo kid reaches up to James and rips out like a strand of his hair. And James is like, dude, like, that hurt. Like, why would you do that? And the emo kid's like, I need that for my wizardly spells. And he like laughs really awkwardly and like shuffles out of there. And James turns to Kate. He's like, dude, like, what life choice did I make to get myself to this position? Like, what did I do wrong? Like, what choices did I make that got me here? And Kate's like, I don't know. Like, this is kind of tough. He's like, yes, why me? Like, why? Why? Like, you just came up to me with a bunch of sticks and says, I want to fight you, right? And then all of a sudden, you know, he just, like, pulls a piece of hair. Like, what? Huh? Bro? I just don't know. I just don't know what to do at this point. And Kate's like, yeah, I don't know. But, like, I think eventually he'll just get bored of whatever he's doing and give up. So anyways, next day, it is lunch. Lunch once again. And James comes in and he finds Kate. And he's almost like they sit down. And he's almost like, he's really stiff. He's like not talking that much. And Kate's like, are you good? Like, is everything okay? And James is like, dude, it's not you. It's just the email. I just don't know what that kid's going to do today. Like, I'm not trying to lose any more hair. Like, that really hurt last night. Like, I was starting to bleed from my scalp where he pulled me. Like, that was ridiculous. And, you know, Kate's like, yeah, that kid's pretty weird. Like, sorry you have to go through with that. And speak of the devil, dude. Because at that point, the emo kid walks in. And at this point, he has a backpack on. And he has a smaller stick. And he has a stick in his hand, a smaller one. And a spirit Halloween wizard hat on. and James is like, you gotta be kidding me, bro. Like, you gotta be kidding me. And at this point, Kate's like, what? She turns around and she's like, oh my God. And the emo kid walks up and he's like, ha ha ha, like, this is where you made your mistake, James. This is where you made your last mistake. And he walks out, and he sits next, and he like stands up next to them. He reaches into his backpack or whatever. He takes out a piece of chalk. He takes out a plastic bag that has a hair in it, presumably James's hair. And he also has like a candle set and a lighter. And he sits down on their he like sits down next to them, and so they had concrete floors in the lunchroom. So next to them, he draws like a pentagram, puts a bunch of like candles around like the pentagram, takes James's hair, puts it in the middle, lights all the candles. At this point, like, this is taking like 2 minutes to do. Kate and James are just sitting there looking at him, completely aghast. Like, what is this kid? What is this kid on? Like, whatever he's on, dude, like, maybe get me some of that. Oh my God. No, but they were just like, I mean, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to say? So eventually the emo kid has his whole, I don't know, his magic setup is all done or whatever you want to call it. And he starts lighting all the candles. He's like, James, this is your last chance. Give me your girlfriend and I won't put a spell on you. And James is like, dude, what do you mean give me my girlfriend? Like, it's like a mutual choice to be like girlfriend and boyfriend. Like, you're acting as if this is like the 1600s or something, and like the wife is the property of the husband, bro. Like, what are you talking about? And, you know, he's like, one more chance, bro. I'm about to put a crazy spell on you if you don't give me your girlfriend. And this is when Kate speaks up and is like, dude, like, even if he said that he was going to give me to you, I'm not going to be your boyfriend. Like, I'm not going to be your girlfriend, dude. And the emo kid's like, well, I'm going to put a spell on you too, dude, if you don't become my... He literally threatens Kate. And he's like, oh, if you don't become my girlfriend, I'm going to put a spell on you as well, which... Okay, I might not be the smoothest individual. I might not be, I don't know, the one that has the greatest pickup lines of all time. My Tinder one's pretty funny. I did steal it from my friend, but maybe I'll 5,000 likes and I'll reveal it, because it's pretty funny, but it's also a little embarrassing. But here's one thing I do know. There's a very decent chance that if you threaten to cast a spell on a woman if she doesn't become your girlfriend, she's probably, not 100%, but probably not gonna become your girlfriend. I know I might be going out on a crazy limb right now, and you guys might completely disagree, and maybe you found your wife of 10 years who loves you very much from threatening her with magical spells. I just don't think that's a great way to do it. So eventually the emo kid finishes up, and then he lights the hair in the middle, and then he takes his magic wand, waves it around, and just starts saying a bunch of nonsense. And at this point, half the entire cafeteria is just like looking. They've almost like circled around it like it was a school fight or something. They've circled around it and they're just like, what the frick, bro? Like, oh my God, like, what's going on right now? And eventually the emo kid like points his magic wand at James and is like, ooga booga, or I don't know. He's just saying some nonsense. And like literally 15 seconds of pure silence happened. And then very clearly nothing happens. And he's like, I'm going to give you one more chance. I'm going to count to 3. If you don't, you're going to explode because of my spells. And James is like, I think I'm going to take the risk. He's like, 3? I'm going to give you one more chance, bro. Like, I'm going to give you one more chance. And James is like, nope, I'm going to take the risk here. 2? And he's like, yeah, no, I'm good, man. Like, you can go ahead with this. If I explode, I explode. Like, that's tough. 1? Last chance, dude. I'm being super generous right now. Just give me your girlfriend and we'll be all good here. And James is like, nah, I'm chilling, bro. He's like, fine. Kicks it. The emo kid literally kicks over his magic, like, whatever set, because I think he knew it wasn't going to work anyways, which thankfully it was concrete floors and nothing, like, flammable, because, like, the candles fly all over the place or whatever, and he storms out of there. He, like, storms out of there. At this point, James sits back down. He's like, maybe we should go on dates at night when we're not in school. And Kate's like, that's not a bad idea. So the next day, Kate and James actually don't sit together at lunch. They sit separately. So they decide that if they're going to, like, do anything, at least for a little bit, to do it outside of school, like after school or at lunch or something like that. But the emo kid once again comes up to James, and James is like, oh my God, dude, like, what? What now? And the emo kid, like, he literally goes on one knee and, like, kind of, like, presents, he's down on one knee, puts his head down and says, like, I concede the battle, you win. Like, I tried everything possible, but you are the better duelist. Like, I honorably concede. And in James's head, he's like, bro, he didn't say this, but he's like, bro, you did not honorably concede. You did the least honorable, you did not concede honorably. But at this point, James sees this as a perfect opportunity for the emo kid to just stop. So he's like, all right, man, like, it was a good battle. It was really close, and you'll get them next time. Like, honestly, James is trying to be as chill as possible so that the emo kid doesn't come back and be like, well, actually, I'm going to try more magic or something. And the emo kid stands up, and he, like, kind of, like, nods his head. And James nods his head back, and the emo kid bows and leaves. And yeah, after that point, James and Kate actually were able to, like, do, like, lunch dates or whatever in school again. The relationship lasted like 6 months. It didn't last crazy long, but Kate and James are still cool to this day. And yeah, the emo kid never
Click on the
bothered
video
them
on
after
screen
this
right
point.
now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it.
How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a great day, because today I have probably the craziest emo kid story I have ever received to date. I'm not even kidding. So sit back, relax, grab something to eat, grab something to drink, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and let's just jump right into it. We're calling today's subscriber Ty. So anyways, Ty was going off to camp, and this was his first time doing an overnight camp, so he was a little bit nervous, and it was kind of like a wilderness-based overnight camp, but they were mostly in cabins. Ty's parents did it before, and they actually met at this camp, so they were really pushing for Ty to go. But the summer before, he just said that he, wasn't ready and was going to do it the next year. And of course, the next summer rolls around, and Ty's like, oh my God, I said that? So sure enough, Ty and his parents ship him off to this camp. Ty's a little bit nervous about it, but they say, hey man, it's going to be good for you. Trust me. Like, I know it's scary, but you just got to do it. So anyways, they arrive at the campground, and they walk over, Ty and his parents walk over to the person who is signing everyone in. And it's some 25-year-old dude with a big old goofy smile on his face. He's like, hey guys, welcome to Camp Awesome. That wasn't actually the name, but we're going to call it Camp Awesome. Hi there, buddy. What's your name? He's like, Ty Gooden. And he's like, Ty, let me see. There you are, buddy. All right, so you're going to be in group B over there. And he points to this group of kids and one counselor or whatever. And Ty turns around to his parents, and his parents are like, all right, well, we'll see you in 2 weeks. And Ty's like, Mom, I don't know if I can do this. And Ty and his dad kind of sits down and he's like, yo, you got this, buddy. You don't need to worry about it. Trust me, the 2 weeks are going to fly by, and you're going to have so much fun, you're not going to want to leave. That's a guarantee from me. And Ty's like, all right. So Ty walks over, and he goes over to Group B, and there's a big group of kids, and, the counselor's like, hey, guys, my name is Ben. Don't worry, he's not the evil guy. But hi, guys, my name is Ben. Welcome, to the camp. These are going to be the guys who are in our group. We're going to be in the same cabin together. We're going to do a lot of activities together. You can still meet people in the other groups, but these are going to be the guys you're going to be seeing all the freaking time. So start getting to know each other. Let's go around, do some names. And so they went around and did some names, and Ty was just kind of like observing, like, all right, well, that person seems kind of cool and whatever. Like, oh, we have that in common. And then it kind of comes around to this one kid that Ty didn't even realize was there until until he spoke up. And this kid had these like long black swooshed hair, right? He wore all black. He had these like rock band t-shirts, these big like black boots. He had this spiky like bracelet necklace type thing. And by the way, if you kind of dress emo, that's totally chill. I don't really care. As long as you don't act like this kid, you're cool in my book. I say this every single time. And this guy was kind of just known as the emo kid. And since I don't want to give him a name because I will forget it and then it'll be very awkward, but we're just going to call him the emo kid from this point on. And Ty didn't think anything negatively. He was just like, oh, this guy really does put a lot into the way he dresses, and he definitely dresses with a lot of character. Ty legitimately had no ill will or feelings of just like, ew, this guy's dressing different than me, or anything like that. It was just an observation. And so later on, they go to dinner together as a group, and then afterwards they have like the welcome to camp ritual, whatever. They all sit around a big campfire, and like they're like inaugurated in the class of 2015 or whatever. I don't know. This took place a little while ago. But anyways, right, it's finally time for them to go back to their cabins to figure out which bunks they want, etc., like that. So anyways, right, they get back there, and they're just the counselor dude who is their group B counselor, right, who's also sleeping in the cabins with them, is like, well, just to make sure that no one feels left out, we've already assigned bunks to everyone. So he said, all right, Ty, you're in bunk A. He says, so-and-so, you're in bunk B, so-and-so, you're in bunk D. And then in bunk D, which they're in kind of like quads of 4, or they're in kind of like groups of 2, but they're bunk beds, so it's 4. So in Ty's group of 4, the 4th one was the emo kid. So the 4 of them walk over, they go in their bunks. The camp counselor says, yo, if you really want, you can talk to your bunkie about being top or bottom. Doesn't really matter. Lol. Doesn't really matter. And so sure enough, Ty and his bunk they didn't really care. Ty was on the bottom. He didn't really care. But anyways, flip over to the emo kid. And the emo kid is like, with this guy, and we're going to call this guy Benjamin. It's a throwaway name, but Benjamin was his bunk. And, the Benjamin is like, hey, do you mind if I have the top? And the emo kid is like, no, I must have the top. I must keep watch at night. And everyone just kind of went silent in that group of 3. They're like, or group of 4. They're kind of like, and Benjamin's like, all right, man, that's fine. Bottom bunk's cool with me. He's like, good. You have made a good choice, because I will watch over us at night. I have spoken. And everyone's like, okay. A lot of character in this guy. Funny guy. Anyways, things seem pretty normal until, it's time for them to go to bed. So anyways, they go and they brush their teeth, and then they get into bed, and the camp counselor guy comes around and is like, all right, group B, section A, or whatever you want me to call you guys. Let's call you the A squad. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun in the next 2 weeks. Just make sure no leaving the camp or no leaving the cabin overnight. Make sure that, you follow any rules that, we ask you to. Be nice and, like fair to everyone, and just, have fun. Anyways, good night, guys. And he walks out of there. And so, the lights are turned off, and Ty in his top bunk, and also Benjamin across from him, they were talking for a little bit. And the emo kid didn't really join in. He was just sitting cross-legged, but kind of sitting very stiffly. So he was very much not going to bed. And eventually they were like, all right, I'm tired. Good night. And they all kind of go to sleep at that point. And about 20 minutes later, Ty has not fallen asleep because he's still feeling a little weird. He's in a new environment. It's dark or whatever. He's a little bit scared. He's a young kid, whatever. He hears rustling, right? And that's when he hears steps, right? And he realizes that the steps are coming from across from him, and it's coming from the top bunk across from him, meaning the emo kid, is starting to walk down the bunks. He's like, all right, well, there's nothing too weird with that. And that's when he hears because there's like a door next to like their cabin. So there's like multiple exits from the cabin. He hears the door open and he watches as the emo kid walks out. So Ty at this point is like, what? So he kind of gets up and the person above him is completely asleep. But Benjamin, the kid from the side of him, is still awake. And he's like, yo, Benjamin. He's like, yo, what's up? He said, emo kid. Cause I maybe said his actual name, but we're calling him emo kid. He's like, emo kid, he just walked out the door. Benjamin's like, you can't do that. And, you know, Ty's like, dude, but he did. So anyways, they both get up and they both look out the window, but they're trying to do it stealthily so that they're not caught, right? And they see the emo kid literally just standing there looking into the moon. It is the creepiest, weirdest thing they have ever seen. Because the kid is just literally freaking standing there, bro. He's just standing there observing the night sky. And they're all like, oh my God, dude, that's freaking weird. What is going on right now? And, you know, sure enough, you know, Ty and Benjamin were like, all right, this kid is a little strange. Make sure he doesn't, like, strangle us to death or something in our sleep. I'm a little freaked out. And that's when the emo kid, out of nowhere, does a 180-degree turn and turns right looking at the window. Ty and Benjamin quickly jump down. They're like, oh, my God, do you see us? Do you see us? Do you see us? So, like, Ty starts to look up. He, like, peeks a little bit into the window and quickly goes down because he sees the emo kid walking towards the window. And he's like, dude, Benjamin, he's walking towards the window. He's like, crawl back to your bunks. So they both crawl out of sight of the window and they crawl into their bunks. And it's dark enough in the room for them to do this without being super obvious. And they're both in their bunks. And Ty turns around under the sheets, right? And he peeks out, and the emo kid is literally standing right with his nose up against the window, looking in. And he's like, oh my God, this kid's insane. Anyways, emo kid walks back in quietly, goes up the stairs again, and sits in the bed and supposedly goes to sleep. Ty doesn't fall asleep for like another hour afterwards, but eventually he opens his eyes to the camp counselor being like, Ty, come on. We're going to be late. And Ty's like, oh my God. And everyone else is like, yeah, you slept in, man. Actually, everyone in this bunk besides emo kid slept in. And that's because everyone was so freaked out that they couldn't go back to sleep. But anyways, first day activities. They go outside, and during the day, they don't totally have to stick with their group. They're actually assigned to random groups. However, a lot of people in the random group will be from their group because they're just trying to make friends within the group. So, and they also go to meals together, so like lunch or dinner or whatever is together. And so anyways, the first activity of the day is not with the emo kid. It is actually like kayak/canoe or whatever, either or, one of those two. And, you know, Ty has a lot of fun. And they go back to dinner or lunch, sorry. They go to lunch as a group together. And Ty's, you know, talking about what he was doing. And the counselor kind of went around the table and was like, oh, so Ty, what did you do? And Ty explains, oh, so Benjamin, what did you do? Benjamin explains, oh, so emo kid, what did you do? And he was like, you know, I prayed to the overlord. And they're like, oh, I don't remember that being an activity. Emo kid's like, it's not. It's necessary. And he's like, okay. Anyways, guys, so I'm going to read off the people in your next activity because the way it worked was at meals. So at breakfast, the camp counselor read off what group everyone else was in for activities. And then at lunch, the camp counselor read off what people would be in for the afternoon activities. And so the camp counselor was like, oh, so Ty, Benjamin, and emo kid, you're all going to be in the group 7 or whatever. And that happened to be like something with like wood tool making or something kind of cool like that. So anyways, after lunch, they all head in that direction. And Ty and Benjamin are like walking together. However, the emo kid, it's not like they were walking away from him, but the emo kid intentionally stands walks 10 feet behind them, never breaking the distance. Like, they always have 10 feet between them, and the emo kid never breaks it. And he kind of walks weird. He walks very stiffly, yet he's kind of like propped forward at a 30-degree angle. His arms shoot straight down, and he kind of waddles a little bit like a penguin. But it's very intimidating and very weird. And Benjamin kind of whispers like, Ben, I can feel his eyes in the back of my head. Or not Ben, but Ty, I can feel his eyes in the back of my head. Ty's like, dude, Benjamin, I know. So anyways, they get there. And the camp counselor dude is like, hey guys, welcome to woodworking. It's going to be a lot of fun. You can make whatever tools or whatever you want. All I ask is that when you're using this blade, that, you know, I'm there and help you guiding it. And also, if you want any, like, I don't know, if you want any inspiration or questions, come to me and it's all cool. So anyways, Ty and Benjamin sit down. They're like, oh, let's make like wooden knives or something. So they're given a pocket knife and they're taught how to whittle away. It's like, always, you got to face it away from you. Never face it towards you. If I see you guys facing it towards you, I got to revoke your knife privileges. Not trying to be that guy, but it's part of the jab. So anyways, right, they look over and they see the emo kid and he's like whittling away at the spoon and or at the stick. And they're all like, so eventually at the end of class, or the end of the activity, they're asked to go around in a circle and say a little bit about what they made and show it off. So Ty's like, all right, well, here's like a butter knife and didn't turn out that well. And everyone laughs a little bit. And the camp counselor's like, dude, it's fire. That's your first time. Don't even worry about it. Eventually comes around to the emo kid. And the emo kid is like, whips out this like almost perfectly whittled. Like this is like really professionally well done. And the camp counselor's like, wow, what is that? He's like, this is a wand for my warlock activities. Nobody better cross me now that I have access to my most powerful weapon of a wand. And everyone was like, what? Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment emo down below. That's the secret word of the day. I'll try and heart as many comments as I possibly can that say emo. And then also, if you want to support the channel, watch a bunch of these videos in one sitting. I call it binge watching. So if you're sitting down, maybe playing video games or trying to go to sleep or something like that, watch like 10 videos in a row if possible. I know it's a big ask, but if you do so, please leave a comment down below. I'll heart it and even shout you out, as on screen right now, shouting out some people who are supporting the channel and telling me about it. So yeah, thanks to these guys and you guys, and let's get right back to it. So fast forward a couple days into the week, and every single day, the emo kid's been doing weird things. So right now is a Wednesday. For context, they got there on a Sunday night. So this Wednesday night, Benjamin's kind of becoming like the side character for Ty. Like he's becoming like pretty close friends. And Ty and Benjamin are kind of like talking about the emo kid and being like, kind of tracking the weird things he's been doing. But tonight is one of the weirdest things he's done. So once again, Ty and Benjamin have been noticing that the emo kid has been going outside every single time, like 15 minutes after they go to sleep. So Ty and Benjamin, they both get in bed, and when the lights are turned off, they wait about 15 minutes, and sure enough, the emo kid gets out of bed and walks down the steps. And he walks outside, and he walks to kind of this like big forest clearing. So Ty and Benjamin, they both walk over, and they both look up, and they look out of the window. And they're looking out, and they see the emo kid, and normally he just stands there blankly. But this time was different. He was getting to work. They saw the stick that he made in the wands, in like the wand craft whatever class, or the woodsmanship class. And he takes the end of it that isn't pointy, where you do the spell, and he puts it into the dirt, because he's standing in a pretty big dirt clearing, and he starts drawing this circle, this very big circle. And Ty looks over at Benjamin and is like, dude, what on earth is going on? Like, what is this kid doing? And Benjamin's like, dude, I have no idea. And they look at it, and he's drawn a complete perfect circle around him. And then he steps out of it. And then he starts making lines within the circle. He goes from the top of it, down, up, down, across, up. He's made a perfect upside down pentagram. And if you don't know, that's basically like a sign of like ship or the something. So at this point, right, Ty and his friend are freaking out. They're like, oh my god, he's trying to like summon something. And sure enough, the emo kid starts like waving his wand around in these weird directions and starts like spinning around in a circle and making these like weird movements. And if TikTok was around, I bet Ty would have been like, bro, is he trying to do a TikTok dance or something? But anyways, Ty and Benjamin are watching as the emo kid, after making the upside down pentagram, just starts waving it around and starts speaking, like, because the window was cracked open a little bit, and they start hearing like some weird okay, maybe it wasn't as goofy as that, but he was kind of talking these like weird tongues or whatever. And that's when they heard the light flick on. Not in their room, because they would have seen that. They heard the light flick on in the middle cabin. The middle part of the cabin.
that is where the camp counselor lived. He must have heard or must have felt like some kind of disturbance or something, because they see the emo kid grab his wand and sprint out of there, and sprint so quickly he goes to the back room. And that's when like Ty and Benjamin are like, oh my god, he's sprinting here. So they quickly jump into bed and are, you know, when, I don't know if you guys did this, but like when you were up later than you should and your mom is about to run into like open the room, and you just jump into your bed and then you just stay super still. That was them. Like, it doesn't matter if you're sprawled out in a weird position, you're staying as still as possible. So they jump in, they're super still, and they watch as the door opens and the emo kid runs in and runs up to like the second bunk and just sits in there. And that's when like they see, like, literally 10 seconds after the emo kid gets into his bed, they see the light flicker on. And the camp counselor, who's for cabin B or whatever, walks in and is like, hey, I saw something out there. And you guys go out there? And, like, you know, everyone's pretending to be like, what? Like, they just woke up. The emo kid is really pretending to be like, what? I don't know what's going on, bro. And obviously Ty and Benjamin, you know, they're trying to, like, pretend like they weren't up watching the whole thing. And the kid on the very top of, like, Ty just is still completely asleep. So counselor's like, all right, whatever. He's like, all right, well, remember, it's a punishable offense if you guys leave the cabin during night. Like, you will be forced to go back home, and you don't want to miss the fun retreat we're doing this weekend. And they're all like, all right. They're like, yeah, it wasn't us. I don't know what it is. And that's when the camp counselor is like, what? And he looks outside the window, and that's when he sees it. He's like, stay here. And he goes outside, and they all watch as he walks outside, and he sees like the upside down pentagram like drawn into the circle or whatever, drawn into the dirt. And he's just looking at it. And he takes out like his iPhone 4, because it was like 2015 or whatever, and he takes a photo of it with like flash, takes another photo, steps back, takes another photo, and everyone else pretends to be asleep as they go back in. Next day rolls around, and they're walking to their first activity from breakfast. And Ty and Benjamin happen to be in the same group. And Ty's like, dude, the emo kid's insane. Like, that was ridiculous last night. And Benjamin's like, I've never been more freaked out besides the first night, bro. Like, this kid's insane. And at this point, they start talking about the camping retreat. So I mentioned this like a couple minutes ago when the camp counselor said, you guys don't want to miss the special fun camping retreat we're doing. So they stayed out in cabins. But part of the wilderness camp, whatever, at the very end of it, at the very, like, the last Friday night to Saturday, they hike out kind of farther out into the woods. They bring like camping equipment, and they kind of like camp out like that. So both of like Ty and Benjamin were a little bit worried, because that basically meant that they were going by group, and they were going to be out in the woods in tents by themselves with the creepy emo kid. So anyways, let's just fast forward to that day. It's Friday, and everyone is kind of packing their little bags, and the camp counselor for each group packs their like supply kit, medical supplies, radio, the food that they're going to be eating. And he's like, all right, everyone grab groups of 2 grab a tent. And so sure enough, people pair up, and Benjamin and Ty are together, and they grab this tent, and they start walking over to the campsite. And Ty and Benjamin was like, dude, I heard that, like, you know, there's only like enough tents so that like we have to pair up with someone. And he said, I heard that it's random. I heard that we don't get to choose who we pair up with. Ty's like, dude, that's insane. We already have friends. I get in the beginning them assigning us stuff, but like, we know people now. This is the last day. Like, why would we need to bunk with someone random? And Benjamin's like, dude, I don't know if that's true. That's just what I heard. So eventually they get to the campsite. Anyways, so they get to the campsite, right? And, you know, they set up their kind of like, they sit around a bunch of logs. So they like light a little fire, and they have like baked beans in a can or something. Then they also go out and they kind of like clear the land to put down the tents. They all set up a bunch of tents in the group of 2 that they carried it over in. And Ty at this point is thinking, all right, we're good, because I'm going to be with Benjamin, because, I mean, we're in groups of 2 already. Why would they need to reassign us groups? And so once again, they were asked back to the campsite, or not the original campsite, but the little campfire they made. It's getting kind of late, and the camp counselor's like, all right, guys, time for me to assign you your bunk mates or your camp tent mates. And Ty in his head is like, no. So Benjamin and so-and-so, so-and-so and so-and-so. So, and you know when there's like that one guy you don't want to be with?